All right, everybody, welcome into Around the Felt. We got the NFL Week 4 recap. Here with me tonight is my co-host Colin, and we got a pretty crazy weekend. Football, 2 Monday night football games again.
Again, at
I
least
roll
the
if I can
Lions
do
and
it well.
Seahawks was a fun game. The Titans Dolphins game was pretty terrible football, to be honest with you. So I kind of
Yeah,
shifted my attention more towards Detroit and Seattle.
yeah, no, that Dolphins Titans game was bad. Even though I'm at the end of the day, the Titans killed them, but it was pretty ugly in that first half, and then Tennessee just took over in the second, which we both kind of predicted.
We did
But
predict the Titans. I was like, I can't believe I'm picking the Titans here. But, the Dolphins scored their first touchdown since the
Tua
second
went down.
quarter of week 1, I believe. So,
Yeah, Miami is just I don't know. They're in
we'll
a weird
get into
spot.
it. We'll get into it. But first, we got news, Reagan. And while I'm diving into the news, do you have the picks up?
I'll pull them up quick.
Pull them up. Pull them up. We'll get into them before we get to the games, but just make sure we're
Yeah,
ready
and
to
you wanna
roll.
well,
But
let the people know too the different how we're gonna be doing it a little different tonight.
yeah, we got a little bit of a different schedule tonight because although my New York Giants lost, which by the way, I have not correctly predicted a Giants game yet this year, but
Should
because my
know.
Giants lost, they did cover 5.5 points by half a point, thanks to Brandon Audrey finally missing a field goal over 50 yards. Therefore, I am 4
Mm.
0 in the big bets this year, and Reagan has to do the questions in an ice bath. So a little bit unfair for him to do an ice bath before the entire pod. So we're going to have him close out the pod with questions in the ice bath. So stay tuned to the end of the pod for questions tonight. We'll do news, break down the games, and then transition over to that.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited for the questions. That'll be a fun one for sure.
Yeah,
But
the teas looked
I don't
really
even know
good.
because I feel like I don't know how we're gonna do it because I feel like the question segment may go over 10 minutes, to be honest.
10-minute max. 10-minute max. That's a fair ice bath. We don't want you going to the hospital with hypothermia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess you're gonna have to do a stopwatch on your phone so we know.
Yeah,
I'll put one in when I edit it later for the people watching on YouTube, but I think you're gonna have to do it on your phone or something.
certainly something I can
Just
do,
so
my
I know.
friends. Whatever I can do to help you out in your difficult time. You must. I mean, I know you're really searching for that first win, but I'm sure you'll get it at some point this season.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's
But
get
let's
into
start
the
with the
news.
news.
Enough of
Some
that.
big news. A lot of news today. Devontae Adams said he would prefer to be traded, and this is after I didn't see the post, I didn't see the like, but supposedly Antonio Pierce liked a post
Yep.
like hinting at Devontae Adams being traded. Did you see the post? I did not see it.
Yeah, I saw it. It was like some one like a Devontae Adams trade post, and yeah, it said sure enough, like under liked by Antonio Pierce. So he definitely liked it.
I don't understand how he thought no one was going to see that. Yeah, I don't understand why, as a head coach, you're on social media liking posts around the league also. But,
Right.
strange to me, but it seems like a departure from Las Vegas is imminent for Devontae Adams. The Raiders are 2-2, not a team that necessarily sees themselves as long-term contenders, though. So it would make sense to trade Devontae. His contract next year, I believe, is $34 million, but it's not guaranteed. So there's no way the Raiders want to pick that up as a team that needs to rebuild. It does make sense to make a trade. The question is, what could the compensation be, and what teams make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm first one that comes to mind. My Jets. I mean, that's one that's just been flirted around and rumored. That's been the
Oh my
biggest rumor
God,
for
yeah.
years now since Rodgers got there. So I would have to think they're at the forefront of that. I heard a lot of people saying maybe Green Bay, reuniting them there.
Packers don't need him. They got so
But
many
I
weapons.
know they have so many guys, so I don't know if that one will happen. I mean, people are like, "Oh, the Chiefs." Like, no, the Raiders are not trading
Oh,
them
I would love the
in
Chiefs, dude.
division.
I got
They won't
Devontae
though.
in one league, and I'm like, you know what? We just lost down to 2-2. Tough one, tough one.
They're not doing
But
that though.
Devontae was hurt last week. I got Cup on IR. I got half my team on bye. It's a tough stretch for that team. But what could save my long term outlook is Devontae Adams to Chiefs. I would love that. But there's no way it happens.
No, no, not at all.
The Jets
Not
make
at all.
make way too much sense, and I predicted in the offseason pods that I thought Devontae Adams would be a Jet before the trade deadline. So, I mean, this is
I
something
don't
that we
know.
kind of
You
saw
never know.
coming.
Like a team like maybe some of those surprise teams out there. Like, what about the Commanders? I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's
got
what I
some
was gonna
money
say.
still. Get Jaden Daniels a number one. Not that McLaurin's not, but I mean, if you can have two number ones with a young quarterback, well, why not? I mean, clearly they're legit. They're a team that's going to be fighting for a wild card spot. I think we have to stop disrespecting them and looking at them as the old Commanders. I mean, they have the third most points scored this year, so their offense is legit and the defense is improving every week under Dan Quinn.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, have more scoring drives than they have punts, which is crazy. The only Commanders fan I know, Walmart, does not want Devontae Adams. He'd rather use their resources to improve the back end of their defense, which I could understand. The comp, what do you think it would be? Do you think Devontae at his age and contract status could fetch a first? I kind of think it's more of a second and another
I
pick.
saw a report come out, they're looking for a second and additional stuff, so whether that's players or more picks, but I saw second was, like, uh, the highest pick they'd be looking for, so they're not looking for a first.
That makes sense. Okay. Let's transition. Christian McCaffrey. Oh, I feel bad for all those fantasy owners that took him first overall. Has tendonitis in both calves, targeting a November return after getting checked out in Germany. Not good, because that means you won't have him till the way back half of the regular season. That's if he comes back and is healthy and even able to play the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's not good looks. I mean, hopefully, most of you McCaffrey owners out there picked up Mason as the handcuff, but it may have been your draft may have been too early, and you may have taken Elijah Mitchell. So it just sucks if you spent that capital on him because even if you did have Mason, I mean, it's still like, oh, what if I drafted somebody else? Like, what if I took Bijan or Brees Hall or CeeDee Lamb? Or I mean, still Tyreek's playing like as bad as he's been, he's still playing. You'll take that over having a guy who's not going to play at all. It just sucks. And I know like I have him in a couple best ball leagues, and I was like, well, if I can make it to week 14, then it's like, oh, sky's the limit. But if he doesn't play at all this
Me
year,
too.
not
Me
ideal.
too. It's just really tough. My one best ball team with McCaffrey is not looking too hot. But the Niners are 2-2 right now. They have enough firepower. They should still stay afloat and certainly be a playoff team. But the division seems to be more competitive. Although we do believe that Seattle is fraudulent, which Detroit showed. Let's move on. Micah Parsons, high ankle sprain. I'm going to be honest with you. I was at the game Thursday. It looked a lot worse than a high ankle sprain. So luckily, it's only that. And Parsons says he'll be back. He's clearly not going to play this week, but maybe a couple weeks, Michael Parsons be back in the mix for a Dallas team that also with DeMarcus Lawrence being placed on IR, a tough look for that defense that hasn't looked the same as they have in years past.
Yeah, no, that's a major blow if he's to miss this week. I mean, not that the Steelers' offense is high powered at all or scares me at all. Even though they did look good against the Colts, they still lost. I mean, it was their best performance offensively, but I mean, it's just not a dynamic offense. So if Mike is to miss, I'm not worried this week, but long term, that is a big blow for any game he misses, especially, they're 2-2, which is great, but I mean, they got a tough schedule coming up. They can't afford to keep losing. So they need their defensive, if not defensive player of the year back.
100%. Von Miller, another edge rusher. Different reason, though. Suspended 4 games for violating the personal conduct policy. I didn't see the details on this, but, not that Miller's made a huge impact for Buffalo thus far, but still losing a guy with his leadership and, what he's done in the past, certainly a blow for that Buffalo defense, which, they've gotten off to a hot start at 3-1.
Yeah, that sucks for the Bills. It really does.
Rashee Rice. Oh boy, the knee injury. It's a good sign that they didn't confirm the ACL yet. So
I saw now that reports that everything may be intact and he may only miss 4 to 6 weeks.
yes, it could be a hyperextension because usually if it's an ACL, you kind of know
Right
that
away.
night or the day after. Like they did the ACL test and they couldn't confirm nor deny. Positive sign, but for a Chiefs team that already doesn't have Hollywood Brown for potentially the entire season, and they really try to address their problem of last year of lacking wide receiver talent. Really, really tough blow. They're still 4-0, though, and if
Yep.
there's any team that can stay afloat in these type of waters, it is Kansas City. But still, this is really tough because Rashee Rice has clearly been the top weapon in that entire offense. I mean, he's been an absolute stud to the point where people are talking about like next year, him being a potential top 10 pick in fantasy. Granted, we don't know the suspension, but seriously, like that type
Well,
of
yeah, I
talent
was gonna say,
that,
don't forget
yeah,
about that too.
we don't know about the suspension, but that type of talent paired with Patrick Mahomes and the amount of targets he was getting. I mean, he was just a beast in fantasy, a beast on the field. Really going to be tough for Kansas City.
Mhm.
And finally, we got two more. Anthony Richardson, hip injury. Man, Richardson just really struggling with the injuries with his playing style. And Steichen did not do him any favors. He kind of hurt the
Yeah,
hip, came out for a little bit, and he put him back in, and right away was a
quarterback
QB
power.
run. It's like, hey, brother, give the ball to Jonathan Taylor there. Why do we got to run the
And
ball with
him
Richardson
too,
right
though.
now?
Taylor with the high ankle sprain, so
Oh,
I don't know if you
Taylor
heard about.
sprained his ankle? I did
Yeah, he
not
had a
see
high
that.
ankle sprain. That's why, he didn't play the rest of the game, and I mean, so far, they haven't ruled him out and said he's gonna miss time, but high ankle sprain, who knows? I mean, he can miss a week or 2. Maybe he'll play this week. I mean, it's different for every player in the pain tolerance, but I would imagine he'll miss a couple games with that. I mean, going off the history.
Oh, well, thank God they have Joe Flacco as a backup because Flacco showed he could still slang that thing, Reagan.
Yeah, and I mean, for Michael I mean, if Flacco's quarterback next week, I mean, Michael Pittman, whatever his over line is, take it, whatever it is, I don't care.
And
It's
they have
80, take it.
Jacksonville, I believe,
That's what I'm saying.
which,
So Michael Pittman, I don't know if he'll score, but just
hey,
because,
target that Jacksonville defense, dude. It just pays dividends for you. Jacksonville, Indy, and the Commanders are 3 defenses that I just love targeting.
yeah. Hey, it's been printing so far.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We didn't even talk about that yet, but we shall. And finally, Will Levis getting an MRI on his shoulder. However, Callahan says there's no quarterback controversy, although Mason Rudolph did a pretty damn good job of moving the ball.
He was just kind of a game man. I mean, watching that game, it was a lot of it was through the run game. I mean, he was making the right throws, but he didn't do anything flashy to be like, this guy should definitely be in over Levis. Like, even though Levis has some mistakes, I mean, it's pretty obvious that like his ceiling is so much higher than like Rudolph. Where, I mean, I think you just can't give up on him. I mean, even if you maybe you compete in more games and you have a chance to win a few more, I think Levis long term could be a huge success in this league. And I don't think it really matters. I don't think you're making the playoffs with either team. And if you are to get it, or with either quarterback, and if you are to make it somehow, it ain't gonna be because of Mason Rudolph. I mean, he's just gonna play check down game manager. He ain't gonna burn you, but he's definitely not gonna put you over the top. And we kind of saw that last night. They beat him with the run game, and he kind of just made the throws, but he didn't make anything there. I was like, whoa, like that is next level. Like he should be starting.
100%. I agree. Your ceiling's higher with Levis, but also Callahan's already shown frustration with his turnovers, and he had another turnover before leaving with the shoulder. So tough look for Will Levis, man. Titans, at least they got a win, though.
Yeah.
All right, Reagan, let's move into the recap and break down these games. This will be the longest recap we have for quite a while with bye weeks coming up. But let's start with Thursday night. My New York
Well,
Giants
hey,
lose
let me say the
20.
records first.
Yeah, say the records. Go ahead.
So I went 10-6 against the spread, 11-5 straight up, and you went 12-4 for both. So
Oh, 12
some
and 4
huge,
against the spread. You know I needed that bad,
some
dude.
big weeks for both of us. So that
Big
puts
weeks.
me 32, 31-1 against the spread. You're one behind me. So and then straight up, I'm 32-32, and you're 35-29. So you're 3 up straight up, and I'm 1 up on the spread. So, but you
Nice.
know,
Boys needed
not
that.
bad.
I
Yeah.
didn't place a single dollar on any spreads this entire week because I've been so bad. And of course, I go 12 and 4 against the spread. Just the timing. I'm like, I'm not right now with the spreads. There's been so many upsets. Let's still see what happens here. But
Stick to
I think
touchdowns, pal.
I'll stick to touchdowns. Big dogs parlay cashed again, plus 1,200, 12 more units, 35 in the year. I mean,
Yeah,
my favorite thing isn't the money hitting my bank account. My favorite thing is
that's mine.
all of you, all of you that support and send the text after, like, love you, Tong, like, appreciate you, you're a beast. Like, that's the best part for me. It's just
Well,
helping everyone else win money.
yeah, and at this point, I mean, at least you could do this the rest of the season, and they'd still be up. Even if they, I mean, like
20 units,
you
dude.
could
Like,
lose every single one, and they'll still be up. So that's the
yeah,
cool thing. But he ain't done. He ain't done. It's crazy because when you go 2-4 in the week you didn't hit, so you're 14-2 on. If you were taking everyone straight up, you'd be 14-2 as well.
that is actually nuts because there's been a handful of plus money as well, like
Yeah, I mean, I
plus
haven't
money
taken any
picks.
straight up, but it might be worth it to start doing it because at least it's like you haven't burnt us yet. And well, saying that this is the week he goes 0-4 after saying that. But yeah, no, yeah, man, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. You know,
Oh, I
you
love
and
it.
Drock's starting to get hot too with his locks. I
Yeah,
believe
draw
he's hit.
draw hit with Monty, David,
Yeah,
Montgomery.
yeah. What does he hit? 2 of his last 3 hit.
Yes, he said
'Cause he
2 of his
didn't hit
last 3.
Jones, but then he hit. Who did he hit before that? He hit somebody else. Oh,
It
Cook,
was
Cook. Yeah,
Cook.
he hit
Yeah.
James Cook, then he missed on Daniel Jones, and then he hit David Montgomery. So basically, sounds like the recipe for him is fade him when it's a Giants lock, and then if it's something else, it's like, all right, tell him.
Yeah, I told him stay away from taking the Giants, dog.
Yeah,
I know it's like when we're there, it's like, it's juicy, it's enticing, but let's just try to stay away from that. And also Drock hit 2 this year and they were touchdown scores. So I think touchdown score is the way to go for the round the felt boys.
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right, but let's talk about my New York Giants losing, but covering the spread so Reagan has to do the punishment.
Oh, wow, you seem happy. I mean, I usually when my team loses, I'm pissed, but, hey, at
No,
least
no, because
no,
you
I mean,
brought it up. No,
yeah,
you let me tell them what you tried
you're
to
like
say to me
kiddy
yesterday.
schoolgirl. "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah.
tried to pull
Yeah,
a
yeah, my
fast
team
one.
only lost 5-5. I don't have to do an ice bath. Yeah, yeah, yeah." I'd be
No,
pissed,
you
bro. If that was my team, I'd be pissed.
I was pissed. You tried to pull a fast one on me yesterday, and you're like, "Are you ready for your ice bath?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" You're like, "It was 4.5." I was like, "Dude, shut up. It was 5.5." And you're like, "Well, you didn't say anything." I'm like, "Yeah, because I was so pissed we lost. I didn't care." And then I told you I'd rather do an ice bath every question segment for the entire month and have the Giants win that game.
All right. Let's get Roger Goodell in here and see if we can work something out.
I need the script writers. But Daniel Jones in this one honestly didn't look too bad. He had the one pick, but that was in the Hail Mary at the end of the game. 29 of 40 for 281. The problem was not able to connect on any of the deep balls. Even the one he hit on Neighbors for a long of 39 to kind of open up the game. He underthrew him, where if you hit Neighbors in stride, there's a chance he beats that safety and they score. He missed Neighbors on another deep ball that almost got picked. He missed Slayton a couple times. That was kind of what tarnished this game for Daniel Jones. He wasn't bad, but let's be honest, the elite quarterbacks that win games, not because of what's around you, but they elevate your team, they make those throws. And that's been Jones's problem with the deep ball. So that really held him back here. Malik Neighbors, again, 15 targets, ridiculous, had 12 for 115. Unfortunately, in the concussion protocol, hopefully, because it was a Thursday game, he can clear it in time for Seattle on Sunday. Wandell Robinson, 14 targets, 11 for 71. So those two guys seem to be the target eaters in that offense, although Slayton is still involved. For Dallas, Prescott, 22 of 27 for 221 and two touchdowns. He looked good. He made good throws, took care of the ball, was able to avoid pressures, only got sacked one time, despite and Dallas did a really good job double teaming Dexter Lawrence in this one. And Brian Burns was absent, but Kayvon Thibodeau had a nice game, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough here. Running game really for Dallas again did not come alive, and it's against a Giants team that's been susceptible to the run. But
Yeah, what
CeeDee
happened?
Lamb,
Where was our
CeeDee,
Zeke touchdown? I mean, he's the giant killer, but it seems like Daddle's the guy to have in fantasy if you want one of the backs. I mean, he's taken over the past 2 weeks. Not that either are sexy fantasy options, but it's at this point Daddle's flexible. I mean, he's getting it's a high powered offense, so you want the guy that's going to be getting the lion's share, and it seems like it's becoming more of a 66 to 33% in favor of Daddle. So maybe he's a guy to go look out to trading for. As his schedule maybe eases up, and they can eventually establish the run, but he seems to be the guy.
yeah, he does seem to be the guy, although he had 11 for 46. He did have the 15-yard touchdown reception. Zeke only had 5 for 19, really not involved that much, but CeeDee Lamb had the long touchdown catch, and they were using CeeDee Lamb out of the backfield as well, which was really effective. Unfortunately for the Giants, they just kicked way too many field goals here. They had
Yeah,
five field goals. They couldn't convert and get the ball in the end zone, which is really disappointing. The New York home fans have yet
Greg
to see the
Joseph,
Giants.
baby.
Yeah, the Giants have yet to see a home touchdown this year through two games. Not a recipe for success here.
No, not at
Giants now
all.
1-3. 1-3 with Seattle coming up,
I
and then
still
Cincinnati.
I think that's a winnable game against Seattle. I'm gonna be honest. I might
It
be taking the
is.
Giants. I hope a
And
lot of people take them in
Cincinnati's winnable
spread,
too. Cincinnati's
but
also winnable, Reagan. Their next
I
two
have
games.
not.
They're winnable.
I mean Seattle. We'll get into it later, but I'm not totally sold on them. But we'll get into that later
Let's
or
move on
tomorrow.
to Atlanta beating the Saints 26-24. This was a crazy game here with Atlanta special teams really coming up clutch. They had a pick six as well,
Mm-hmm.
which was nice to see. But Kirk Cousins 21 of 35 for 238, a pick, no touchdowns, so still not ideal. And the main story coming to this one for me was Algier being way more effective than Bijan Robinson. He had 8 for 60, Bijan 7 for 28. Now Bijan did have a touchdown reception where he looked really good. That got called
No, he
back
didn't.
for
Oh, oh, oh.
a ticky tack holding penalty, called it back. Bijan still added 4 for 46 through the air. Not ideal though. And then Kyle Pitts. Oh God, if you got Kyle Pitts, I
Hey,
said
you got
before
three
the
targets.
season, it's got to be the year, right? No, it's not the year. He put up a dud. Zero
It's weird,
catches
man.
on three
It's
targets.
weird
Reagan,
to
what's
draft a guy
going
that
on there?
early, and I don't even know because it's like they drafted him so early, but they and it's obviously a talent issue too. It's not like you can't at a certain point it can't just be like they don't know how to use him. I mean, at a certain point we got to look at him and be like he's a problem as well. So
Yeah,
I think
dude.
it's a combination of each. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a system the Falcons don't know how to use him." It's like, at what point do we look at him and we're like, like he's just got to get open and start winning? And like, I don't know, weird stuff. You would think they'd try to create more stuff for him, but maybe he's just a bust.
It's
Maybe he
so
just is.
weird, Reagan, because he was such a highly touted prospect. He was so dominant at Florida.
Yeah. Would he
He
go
was so
4th?
good his
No,
rookie
8th?
year.
Would he go
Fourth
8th?
overall. Fourth
4th, yeah.
overall, right in front of Jamar Chase and right in front of Penny Sewell. So that looks tough right now. But
Oh my gosh.
his rookie year, he had over 1,000 yards. And you're like, damn, that's why you take a tight end in the top 10 if they're a unicorn like that. But since he got hurt, he just come back and he doesn't look as explosive. His routes aren't as
Oh
clean, and
my
he's
gosh.
not getting open, bro. I'm seeing clips. He's not getting open.
Taking him over 2 all pros. That's rough. That is rough.
But he looked like he was going to be an all pro too after his rookie year, but just it has not panned out that way. Really
No,
tough.
not at
Drake
all.
London, 6 for 64. Darnell Mooney, 3 for 56. I mean, those seem to be two solid options right now. But for the
Yeah.
Saints, Derek Carr threw for 239 and a pick. Kamara scored yet another touchdown, dude. I guess we were off on him regressing
Oh,
this
yeah.
year. He's been a touchdown machine, had 7 for 42 through the air, so still getting a ton of receptions. Taysom Hill punched in 2 touchdowns. Finally, they're
I
getting him
believe,
more involved in the red zone.
yeah, I believe Kamara is, like he may be the RB1 for fantasy right now, if I'm not mistaken.
He might
'Cause
be because Barkley didn't score.
Saquon, yeah, he didn't really do much, and I know he had another dud, and Henry, I know Henry's, yeah, Kamara's number 1 for half point. I'm assuming full point because he gets a ton of, yeah, he's probably number 1 for both for all
Yeah,
scoring.
because you would think Barkley or Henry would be full. I mean, would be half. But if you have Kamara's receptions in there,
Kamara's
he's
number 1 for half.
yeah, which means he's certainly number one for full.
Yeah, so, yeah, and, I mean, obviously, a lot of time left, but he looks primed barring injury to finish as, top 12 guy, if not top 5.
For sure. And then for the on the receiving side, Olave 8 for 87 and Rashid Shaheed 8 for 83. Their stats this season are very close. Although Shaheed did lose a fumble in this one, but it almost seems like a 1A, 1B in that offense right now, Reagan.
It's looking like it so far. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Saints are looking legit. I mean, they're 2 really close games decided by, kind of came down to the wire with like 2 minutes left away from being 4-0. So they've been competing in every game. I think they're primed. They're kind of similar like what I was saying with Washington. They look legit. A team we were kind of sleeping on that definitely looks like they could be pushing for a wild card spot, if not the division, come the end of the year.
Yeah. Now Atlanta and New Orleans both 2-2, right behind the Bucks at 3-1. It seems like it's going to be a division where it's really tight with those three again at the top.
Yeah, and it's a big Bucks play in Atlanta this week on Thursday Night Football, so that's massive uh, for seeding implications and division and all that stuff. Because I mean, Saints lose this week and the Bucks beat the Falcons, then they get a 2-game lead with the head-to-head over the Falcons too. So could be massive for the Bucks this week to take a huge lead in that division.
For sure. Let's move on. The Bears beat the Rams 24-18. Bears now 2-2. Caleb Williams way more efficient in this one, 17 of 23, only 157 yards, but you like that the completion percentage is starting to creep up every week here. Threw a touchdown to
Hmm.
DJ Moore, who had 3 for 22. But really, it was DeAndre Swift right when I put him on
Yeah.
my bench. He goes 16 for 93 for a touchdown, and then also added 7 for 72 through the air as the leading receiver for Chicago.
And that's the crazy thing you look at there is a 7 for 72 as a receiver. I mean, if you were worried, maybe you traded him away for cheap or you went and acquired him. I mean, this was a big week, but everyone was calling for his job, and it looked like Roshan Johnson was taking over. But I still think he'll be heavily involved, Johnson. But I mean, it's good to see Swift, who actually I heard in this game alone had more rushing yards than he did in the first 3 games combined. So this is a
Yeah,
huge step in the right direction.
I believe it. Roshan did punch one in, but Swift was way more efficient in this one. And that Rams defense, man, is just really struggling right now. Where I think because this Bears offense wasn't cooking. Like, let's be honest. But
No.
this Rams defense seems like another defense that you like to target for gambling wise, for targeting props.
Yeah, I hope I kind of like next week Josh Jacobs for your touchdown scorer parlay. Is they're
Dude,
playing.
I already thought about that, but I'm going a different direction. I'm going Jaden Reed. Dude,
Yeah.
Jaden Reed Jacobs hasn't scored yet. Jaden Reed just been on fire.
Okay. All right. All right.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
For the Rams, Matthew Stafford, another tough game. You really can't put it on him. This Bears defense is really, really good, but
Well,
Stafford's
not
been a
even that,
bust.
the injuries.
Yeah, but
The
Stafford's been a
injuries going
bust
on
this
the O
year
line.
with, the offensive line and both his top weapons. Threw for 224 and a pick here. It was another Kyron Williams game, 19 for 94 and a touchdown.
And
Also
that's
added 4 for 10 through the air.
and that's what I was gonna say. That's the biggest thing. Like everyone was so worried about Blake Corum, and with all this going on, where it's like, oh, like we see a lot of guys suffer because of injuries around them, and it kind of runs like with all the Miami Dolphins weapons right now, they're all suffering. I mean, obviously it's a quarterback versus weapons around him, but you would think Kyron would struggle a little bit because it's a lot harder to pass and with all the offensive line issues. But he's been thriving, man. Like if you took him and got him late in the second, or even if you took him early before he started the slide with the Corum news and all that stuff. I mean, he has been everything that he was advertised, and he's kind of brought over all the big production he had last year into this year. I mean, he's looked very good this year. I mean, what is he at already? Yeah, he's already got 5 touchdowns on the ground and 73 carries. I mean, that's bell cow production right there. He's almost up to 20 a game and 258 yards. I mean, the average isn't great, but I mean, 3.5 with all the injuries they have, you'll take it. So he's been great so
100%.
far.
And Reagan,
Oh, and he's got one in the air.
yeah, and my two best fantasy teams thus far this year, I snagged Kyron Williams in round 3 or 4, where people were
Yeah,
afraid of taking him, and I'm pouncing on it just because what we saw on a per game basis last year. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care that he's returning punts. Like
yeah.
until I see Blake Corum do it, like yeah, I tried to get the Corum handcuff, but I ultimately didn't, and it does not matter because Kyron Williams is a workhorse.
Well, and the funniest part is, like in our dynasty league, the team that I have was so stacked, is dealing with so many injuries. I mean, I lost Puka, McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill's obviously might as well be injured with Tua out. Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor are going to miss some time. So right now, Kyron's like the only big dog, and Kelsey, I guess, but who knows what he is at this point. That is like actually performing, and he was the only one coming into the year that I was actually worried about. And it's
Yeah.
funny that he's the only one that's been a steady force that hasn't dealt with injuries, and sure enough, he'll get injured now that I jinxed him. But
It is ironic. It is ironic. The Rams
I
dropped
know,
to 1-3. It's looking like an uphill battle for them to climb back into playoff contention to the point where people are starting to talk about maybe Cooper Cup being on the move, and the Kansas City Chiefs should inquire about him. Now that'd be a great match with Patrick Mahomes. Is that
mm,
something you could see?
mm. Oh wait, who? Cooper Cup and Mahomes?
Cooper Cup to the Chiefs. Is that something you could see?
So I don't know. I feel like he's just gonna retire a Ram. I don't know because it's like if like the Rams like could still be in a Super Bowl window. It's just injuries are killing them. Like if Cup and Nakua were healthy and they didn't have all the offensive line issues, like this team is still good. Like this is still like a fringe playoff team. So it's like I find it hard that they're gonna blow it up when it's like all injury related for their issues. I mean, they just beat the 49ers without all those guys, so they're still a good team. It's just everyone's got to get healthy.
Yeah, they're 1-3. They got one more game until their bye week, so they're probably targeting Nakua and Cup to come back for Week 7 against Las Vegas. But it's definitely going to be tough for them to beat Green Bay this week. And then you're 1-4 at the bye. They did come back from being 3-7 last year, 3-6, I believe, three and
3 and
six
6.
to
Yep.
make the playoffs. So
Hmm.
with Sean McVay and they get those guys back, they can make a push in the NFC. But it's just gonna be another thing where it's like, you know what, Cup's up there in age. Stafford's clearly up there in age. Do we start to give away some of these guys and get some picks? But I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. But let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings improving to
Yeah. No,
4-0. Who saw
this is
that
crazy.
coming?
Not
Apparently all
us.
those Vikings fans on the on our NFC North pod on YouTube saw it coming, but they were giving us some shit. And you know what?
Rightfully
Even with
so.
Jordan, even with Jordan Love coming back in this game, throwing the ball 54 times for 389, 4 touchdowns, did have 3 picks. A lot of that damage was done in the fourth quarter where Green Bay went on a 22-3 run. Just wasn't enough to get the win here, Reagan.
Yeah. No, I mean this is insane. If you talk like, I don't even know. I'm so surprised they're 4-0 and Sam Darnold. I don't know. Did you see what his MVP odds are right now?
I did not see the odds. What are they?
I saw. Take a guess.
Is he the favorite?
No, no, no. Not that crazy, but
Josh
still.
Allen's got to be the favorite right now. I would
Him or
say
Mahomes, I think is.
Darnold,
No, I think
Darnold,
Mahomes is now.
Darnold plus 750.
Oh, okay, all right. So I plus 1,300, which I thought was still a little crazy. Just 'cause I mean, he has 11 touchdowns to 3 picks, so he's leading it. He's the only guy with double-digit touchdown passes and, like, 3 picks. Like, he's taking care of the ball. That's not bad. But I just kinda actually, let me see, because yeah, no, he's plus 1,300. The only guys in front of him are Mahomes, who's the favorite at plus 300, then Allen at plus 350, Jackson's plus 700, and Stroud's plus 1,000. And I think a lot of that's not even, like, what they've done this year. It's just, like, the teams are
Projection.
good, and they're good. Yeah, it's projection, a lot of it, so
Because I wouldn't say Mahomes should be the favorite right now. I would say it should be Josh Allen,
No.
but, it is Patrick
Um,
Mahomes.
well, if we're going off I mean, if we're going off of what they've done on the field, then it should be Darnold. I mean,
Yeah,
Darnold's
like,
played better than Allen even.
you can
I mean, he
yeah, you
hasn't had
can
one
start I
hiccup
mean,
game. I mean, Allen did nothing to get look terrible against the Ravens.
yeah, you
So,
could certainly make the case. Darnold in this one threw for 275, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Aaron Jones' revenge game did not score. Busted my 11-leg touchdown score parlay to try to win 40 racks. So, a little
was that
pissed
the
off
only one that
about that
didn't hit?
one. No, no, there were a
Oh, oh,
couple.
oh,
Like,
oh.
I had Kelsey too. Kelsey did have
I
a
was gonna
bounce
say,
back
when you
game,
say
but
that, I'm like, "Wait, what? What, dude?"
yes, but he busted at the 1 o'clock slate, so that frustrated
Oh,
me. So
okay.
I wasn't alive till the 4, so I couldn't sweat it out. But Jones did have 93 rushing yards. He did add 46 through the air, so a big game for him. And he did get stuffed a few times inside the 5, which was tough. He did get denied a Lambeau leap after the game, so you feel for him there. But Justin Jefferson, 6 for 85 and a touchdown. Jordan Addison, 3 for 72 and a touchdown. The two top receivers really getting it done. For the Packers here, Jacobs 9 for 51, still has yet to score. Did have 4 for
Yeah,
27 through the air, which is tough. But Jaden Reed 7 for 139 and a touchdown. And with Christian Watson leaving the game, Reagan, Dontavian Wicks 578, 2 touchdowns on
yeah.
13 targets.
I was super thrilled about that because I took him in a couple of best ball leagues, late, just, like, hoping that, he could become a guy there, and maybe, like, with Watson's gonna miss some time, so, I mean, Reed's obviously got the number 1 lockdown, but I mean, he could really work in some time here and maybe keep that rolling. It's like Watson and Dobbs are kind of filling it into the 3 and the 4. So very encouraging. And I want to say with Darnold, like he's the number 5 fantasy quarterback right now. Like go pick him up if he's out there. I think he's
That's
proven at this
crazy.
point. He's 3 out of his 4 games. He's had over 19 fantasy points. And with the quarterback landscape being so iffy this year, I mean, yeah, he doesn't have the rushing upside, but I would go pick him up. I mean, like he's out playing a ton of guys, and at a certain point, you just got to buy in. I mean, maybe this week, if you're really worried with the Jets defense, who's been playing well the past 2 weeks, you could hold off. But I don't know. I definitely think he's worth the ad. I mean, then they go into the bye week after week 6, so I don't know. It'll be interesting, but definitely he should not be on waivers in your league at this point.
I agree. And now the Packers sit at 2-2. Vikings leading the division at 4-0. Let's move on, Reagan. We were both right on this one here. Somehow,
Hmm.
some way, the Colts are going to get it done, but we didn't think it'd be Joe Flacco leading the charge. 27-24 win here. Colts now 2-2, a big win for them. Steelers 3-1. Let's start with Richardson, 3-4 for 71 before leaving with the hip. Had 3 carries for 24 yards. So it looked like Richardson was going to have his best game of the year before leaving with injury. But
Yeah.
then Joe Flacco stepped in, did his thing, 16-26, 168, and 2 touchdowns with Josh Downs, who the last 2 weeks has looked really good, who I was high on preseason because he was building the best rapport with Anthony Richardson, but he did it with Flacco as well. And Michael Pittman finally had that big breakout game this season, 6 for a buck 13. Jonathan Taylor round out the offense, 21 for 88 and a touchdown. Obviously, the ankle is worrisome, but JT's been a workhorse for them.
Yeah, and I'm shaking my head because it's just like it sucks that like you see what Pittman was able to do as soon as Flacco steps in. It's like
As
if
soon as you
Flacco is
bench him,
well, yeah, and I wouldn't have started him. Like I benched him in a league, and it was purely because he hasn't been able to establish it with Richardson. Where if Flacco was to start any week, if Flacco plays any week he starts, I view Pittman as a top 5 wide receiver in that week. I think he will be that good. It's just for some reason him and Richardson can't establish it. And Pittman was a top 12. I think he was like 12 or 13, depending on what format, but he was back end wide receiver 1 or a top end wide receiver 2 last year with Minshew for most of the year. So
yes,
he's a good player. It's just him and Richardson cannot seem to get on the same page.
I know. And that's more so Richardson being inaccurate, I
Mhm.
believe, because Pittman is a great player. There's no
Oh,
denying
yeah.
it. What we've seen. Justin Fields had a big day. He was the QB1 in fantasy this week, added 2 touchdowns on the ground and 55 yards, while also throwing for 312 and a touchdown. Just a monster game for Fields against the Colts defense that really is just not that good. George Pickens was number 1 target for 113 this week. Fryermuth added a touchdown and 57 yards as well. And, Najee Harris, dude, what's going on with him? Because this is a matchup that I thought he should really perform. He had 13 for 19 yards, while Cordell Patterson, of course, had 6 for 43.
Yeah, no Jalen Warren either. That was
Yep.
like he was out, so you would have thought like, hey, maybe he'll put up some production, but I don't know, man. I mean, I thought last year he could lead the league in rushing, and yeah, he doesn't look like he'd do it this year
He
either.
looks
But
cooked.
yeah, man, it's crazy because you would have thought like this would be a smash play for him, bad defense, and then no Jalen Warren. It's like his role to get, and then Cordell Patterson's just way more efficient. So I don't know. I don't know. He seems healthy too. As far as I know, he's not dealing with any injuries, but he just like you said, he just looks cooked.
No, for sure. And I mean, Justin Fields, even in the loss here, it was his best game of the season. He's
Oh
got
yeah,
that starting
he was
job.
the number one fantasy quarterback this week, I
Yeah,
believe. I think he had like 32 points,
he was.
and he seemed like I would say at this point it's his job to lose as long as he continues to play
100%.
like
He's got it
that.
on lock.
Because like he played great in the loss and in the wins. Like he didn't do anything like out of this world, but he got the win. So who cares how bad he plays? And he didn't play bad in any of the losses. I mean, he kind of just was a game manager. So I mean, so far through 4 games, he's done nothing to prove that he shouldn't be the starting quarterback there.
Oh, for sure. It's his job to lose. 100%. Let's move on, dude. Oh, I'm so sorry. We got to talk about this. What the hell happened to your Jets? I know the weather was bad, and I know. I
Play
mean, but
calling's bad.
you
Coaching's
still.
bad. Coaching is an issue. Fire it all. Clean house. Clean house. Clean house. I mean, 40. It's pouring rain, and we're gonna throw the ball 45 times. When Hackett, all he wants to do is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And then when you get a game script that you should run the ball, when you have two good running backs, I mean, Braylon Allen's proven he should be like if he was on another team, like he would be a beast this year. It's just you have a top three running back on your team already.
Dallas.
Huh?
I said Dallas, like the
Oh,
Cowboys
like
should
they should have
draft him.
drafted him. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, I mean, I just didn't get the play calling. I mean, and then obviously, you go down the field, you get it first and goal on the one, and you get stopped 3 times, and you end up kicking a field goal. It's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We can't get it in against the Broncos. Also killing my. I had a nice little bet on the Jets. Big, big, big. I threw like 50 to win like 5 grand on them to score a rushing touchdown in every game. Dead, dead, so dead. But
Oh,
should have
that's
cashed
brutal.
perfect game script for the rain. But we have Rodgers throwing the ball 45 times. I mean, it sucks. I mean, Mike Williams, I believe, I think this was actually a decent game for him, which I kind of said he would
4 for
start to get unlocked.
67, but
So
I think he had
good to
3
see that.
catches of like 20 plus yards here.
Yeah, so it's good to see that he had 4 of 67. I mean, Garrett Wilson had the bad fumble, and then Brees, I mean, what the fuck, 10 for 4. I mean, Braylon Allen significantly more efficient. You'd like to see that go up. But another thing I will say is the Broncos defense might not be bad.
No, it's good. It's good. They've allowed the second least amount of passing yards coming into this week. Rodgers threw for 225. So I'd imagine they're still up there in the top 5. It's
Yeah,
been difficult for teams to score.
I've actually only seen this defense. I mean, they played 16 quarters of football, and they played amazing defense in 14 of them. Outside of that second half against Seattle, this defense has looked like debatable the best defense in football. It's not. That's an overstatement for sure. But they've looked like a top defense in this league. I mean, they made the Bucks look silly. They made the Jets look silly. The Steelers put up 13 on them. They lost, but I mean, 13 points. I mean, that's on the offense. If you allow 13 points, there's no reason to lose that game.
100%.
And against Seattle, they had 2 safeties in the first half. I mean, let me look. I have it. Yeah, they allowed 9 points in the first half against Seattle, and then they exploded in the second half. Whatever. It's early in the year, but I mean, this defense is playing fired up. This is not the same defense that allowed 70 points to Miami last year, but definitely a defense that's worth picking up in fantasy leagues as well. And I'm sure they're not owned in many, and they get to play the Raiders this week at home, so it's an awesome matchup. So if you can go pick them up this week, the way they've been playing, I mean, you may have double digits points this week from a waiver wire defense.
For sure. And that defense won them a game in which their quarterback only threw for 60 yards, Reagan.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
that's
nuts.
another thing. I mean, it is nice to know, like, I mean, I'm not taking too much away from this. Like the Jets defense has looked great the past 2 weeks. But you played Bo Nix and Jacoby Brissett, so I'm not gonna act like we're fully back. This will be a better test this week in London. But obviously they've allowed 13 points over the last 2 weeks. But I mean, I'm not gonna give them too much credit, but I'm also not gonna fault them because yeah, it's shit defenses, but they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, not letting them do anything. So they're starting to get it better since that week 1 against the 49ers. They've been improving every week. So we'll see. This will be a huge test against one of the best offenses so far in the Vikings in London this week.
For sure. And it was Cortland Sutton with 60 receiving yards and the touchdown. Michael Burton with 3 receiving yards. Javonte Williams with 3 receiving yards. But the combination of Tyler Batty and Troy Franklin with -6 to net out to Cortland Sutton had essentially the net exact amount of receiving yards that Bo Nix threw for, which is crazy. And they won the game. A positive for Javonte Williams fantasy holders. He did have over 70 rushing yards here. Still not great. Still, I don't believe there's gonna be a lot of touchdowns scored from this offense, but at least
It's
it's
also like
something
a great game script where you like have to just keep feeding them the rock. You know, most teams would just feed their running backs the ball. They'd run it more than like, I don't know, 18 times in a rain game. He wouldn't throw the ball 45 times, but whatever.
for sure. Let's move on. Tampa Bay 33-16 win over the Eagles, improving to 3-1. Philly now
Yeah.
drops to 2-2. A lot of things to talk about with the Eagles. I was all over the Bucks in this one. Let's talk about them first. Baker Mayfield threw for 347 and 2 touchdowns. He looks really damn good this year outside of that Denver game that you mentioned, Reagan. And Bucky Irving, a nice, solid game, and he's taken more and more of those opportunities from Rock
Mhm.
White here. They both had 10 carries for 49 yards, actually.
I was about to say.
It's ironic, but Bucky
Yeah.
scored the touchdown. And from a receiving standpoint, yes, White had 2 for 35 on a long of 22. Bucky had 1 for 6. However, I saw the percentage of snaps in which these backs are in on receiving plays, on pass plays. And over the last 3 weeks, Rock White's snap percentage has continuously dropped and Bucky's has continued to rise, which, if you're a Bucky fantasy holder, is great to see.
Yeah, if you're a Rock White guy, I mean, he was one of my do not draft guys. I really didn't take him anywhere. I did trade for him recently, but I actually was able to unload him and Bucky because I had both, and I'm like, you know what, I don't even want to deal with this situation as good as Bucky can be. So I was able to kind of shop that and get Zach Moss and Christian Kirk back, which so far that's looking good because Kirk, his targets have been up like crazy the past 2 weeks, and obviously Zach Moss is heavily involved in that offense. But it's a situation I don't really want to be a part of if I have the handcuff right now. It's tough because both guys are like kind of splitting, and neither guy's like anything more than a flex, but you don't want to play them both.
Yep.
So at this point, you're not rooting for injuries, but you're just rooting for Bucky to take over. And or if you're a guy that had Bucky and no Rock White, then this is perfect for you. Especially those guys in underdog leagues. If you took him in your last like 3 rounds, I mean, he could be a league winner and a big reason why you make it to the playoffs because you got a running back who's putting up, top 12, top 15 numbers, and he's your fourth, fifth guy. So
Yeah, I
especially with all
snagged
the injuries too.
100%. I snagged Bucky late in a few of my best ball drafts, and those have been some of my better teams that I have thus far. I forgot to tell you too. I'm placing in a couple right now, so we're starting to put it
Atta
together
boy.
in the best
Atta
ball.
boy.
We're in contention to make some money now, so that's
Yeah, I'm
good to
pissed. I
see.
I had a great lineup going last night. I did like the $10 one for the Sunday and Monday night, and it was looking great because I had Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs. I had who else did I have? That Jameson Williams. So it was like looking like I was gonna make money. I'm like, I'm gonna get cute here. I'm gonna pass Jared Goff up. I'm gonna pass some of the other quarterbacks up and go Will Levis with the DeAndre Hopkins stack. And it looked good to start the game because Hopkins had the 31-yard
Oh,
catch, and then he got hurt, and I didn't win any money. Where if I went Goff and didn't reach on DeAndre Hopkins, maybe I would have made some money. But it's all right. It's all right. It was a $10 entry. We live. We live.
oh
We make
man,
that good
yeah.
money on the podcast.
You passed up a quarterback that didn't throw an incomplete pass. That's got to be a tough feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. At
But
least he got me point 0.5. He didn't totally murder me. He got me some points.
let's talk about the Eagles here. Barkley, 10 for 84. Had the long of 59, though. Really wasn't that efficient, but also the game script didn't allow them to kind of lean on the run game here
Yeah.
with, with both top receivers out for Philadelphia. Not a position you want to be in, but Goddard, 7 for 62, solid. Barkley had a 32 the air, solid. Can we just talk about Jalen Hurts, though? He threw for
Yeah.
158 and a touchdown, but he fumbled twice, lost one.
Hmm.
Another turnover, dude. He leads the league in turnovers since the start of last year, and he leads the league in turnover worthy plays this year. Something's going on with Jalen Hurts, man, because people want to talk about other quarterbacks in the league that aren't living up to the contract they got. Cough, cough, fucking Daniel Jones and shitting on the Giants. How about the contract they gave Jalen Hurts? Because he doesn't look like that guy. He really doesn't, bro.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely struggling. I'm not worried about him. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, he didn't have Smith or Brown, so I
But
think we have
he's
to put a little bit of an
But the
asterisk on
turnovers,
this.
though, this is a
Well,
several
yeah,
game stretch now. This
yeah.
is now like a 20 game stretch where the turnovers are ugly. And I know we saw Dak Prescott in 2022 lead the league in turnovers, and then last year he was lights out. So it's something that can be fixed. But Hurts just looks uncomfortable a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 5 turnovers in 4 games, so you don't love it, but I mean, at the end of the day, you think AJ Brown coming back and Smith coming back will kind of fix a lot of that stuff. It's interesting. I mean, the past 2 games haven't looked great, but then he looked awesome, and he looked great against the Packers. I mean, the turnovers were there, but they were moving the ball a lot. So I don't know. I'm not fully overreacting yet. I mean, if this continues, once Brown and Smith are back, then I think it's an issue. So for now, I'm kind of like playing it by ear. But yeah, definitely he's not looking like the guy we saw 2 years ago or in the first half of last year. I mean, basically the last 6, 7 games into the playoffs and then the start of this year, he has not looked like the normal Jalen Hurts.
For sure. Cincinnati gets in the win column finally. We said it, Reagan. There's no way they start 0-4. They get a 34-24 win over the Panthers, who now drop to 1-3. The Red Rocket revenge game did throw for 222 touchdowns, had a pick. Chuba Hubbard
Yeah,
continues his hot streak, running for 104 and a touchdown.
but it will be interesting because Jonathan Brooks can come back as early as this week.
Yes. So with
So
Hubbard playing as well as he is, but you spent the draft capital on Brooks, the exciting young rookie, I don't know how it's going to play out because you got to imagine those 6
50-50
carries Miles
timeshare. That's what I'm
Sanders got.
thinking.
Yeah, those 6 carries that Miles Sanders got, those are gone. Those are going to Brooks at
Yeah.
least,
I think
right?
it's just a terrible spot because I feel like both guys are going to be like low end flexes. It's still not a great offense, so I think guys are going to be splitting it a lot, and then like how many red zone opportunities going to be there. So it kind of sucks if you've been really enjoying the Chuba thing, or if you took Brooks expecting Chuba to not be productive at all and just to kind of take over as soon as he was healthy. So it's kind of the worst situation if you had them both because it's kind of similar to the White Bucky Irving thing where it's like you
Yeah.
know you really at the end of the day you have 2 low end flexes there and they're going to eat each other up. I mean, and the way Hubbard's played, it's not like he deserves to lose touches. It's just they spent the second round pick on Brooks. He's supposed to be the most dynamic running back in this class. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's just not a great situation to be in if you're an owner of either of those guys, or maybe you own both and you're just like, what the hell am I supposed to do? So
Certainly not. But a great situation for your fantasy team is if you have Deontay Johnson with the Red Rocket in the
mhm.
lineup, because Deontay the last 2 weeks looks like he was supposed to be the main target guy in this offense with 13 this game, had 7 for 83 and a touchdown. I mean, that's awesome. That's what you expected from Deontay Johnson. Now, is he a guy that could get moved? I don't know if you saw, but Schefter said on the McAfee show with the Panthers, clearly they're not a playoff team, that he said, you already know Deontay Johnson, his contract's up after this year. He's not going to be back. So we know something. Deontay Johnson, I don't know if he wants to be in Carolina. He's still producing the last 2 weeks, but could that be a guy that you see on the move?
I actually think he'll want to stay because he can continue to be the one and just ball out with Andy Dalton and get a
Build
fat
up those
contract in the
stats.
offseason.
Yeah.
That's what I would think because at this point, I don't think he really, I think I don't know. I can't say for certain. I mean, unless he goes to a contender that he can win a ring, but I don't know
Kansas
where he's at.
City? I haven't seen that float around, but what if Deontay Johnson goes to Kansas City? Now that's something for
Yeah.
him where that would make sense.
It's tough though because if the Panthers still do plan to go back to Bryce Young, I mean, you were doing him no favors by trading him away. Like, yeah, you could get a good but then again, like you're in a spot where you kind of need to because if you can get like a second, third round pick for him, it's
I
like,
don't think you get a
you know,
second though, because he's clearly a
depends
rental.
how much he balls out, and how desperate teams get. I mean, if you have a shell of a wide receiver core and he continues to be putting up these 100 yards performances week in and week out, I mean, 2 weeks straight, we saw him ball out having over 100 yards and a touchdown. So if he continues that, I mean, and you get desperate, you have a shell of a wide receiver core room and you're like, yo, we got to win the Super Bowl. I mean, or we got to make the playoffs and make this push. I mean, it really depends how desperate you are. I mean, the Panthers don't have to sell him, but if some teams get desperate, you can start a bidding war. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, maybe you got to throw in a pick to get that second rounder, but I don't know. I wouldn't be that shocked if he goes for a second. It's just obviously you have 1 year left on the contract, but if you kind of knew going into it, like, hey, we're gonna get it, give up a second, but we're also signing him long term. So something like that would have to be in place, kind of similar to the Montez Sweat last year with the Bears, where they knew they were
Yep.
gonna pay him right away as well.
That makes sense. And a positive sign for Panthers fans. And if you've been stashing Xavier Legette, 6 for 66 in his first career NFL touchdown, doing the gallop, a little tribute to his horse that he has.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty cool celebration. I like that. For the Bengals, Burrow threw for 232, 2 touchdowns and a pick with T. Higgins back in the lineup, who added 6 for 60. Had the most targets in the team here with 10. Jamar Chase only had 3 catches on 6 targets. However, 85 yards and that 63-yard touchdown, which was absolutely disgusting, which is what you expect from Jamar Chase.
I mean, that's where you drafted him to do. I mean, he's kind of like he's one of the few guys living up to his first round status so far.
100%. Chase Brown, 15 for 80 and 2 touchdowns here. When Chase Brown scored the first touchdown, yes, Big Dog was sweating his parlay, but Zach Moss was able to get in on the receiving end right before the half, which was clutch. And Moss had 15 for 51. So Chase Brown was the better rusher in this game, vying for more opportunities.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a complete 50-50 timeshare, maybe 60-40 Moss just because he's the bigger guy, the one that you
Yo,
want to
you're
run
getting a
between the
phone call,
tackles.
dog.
But, oh, oops. I think he's the guy that's going to, I didn't know if you could hear that, so that's my bad. But yeah, he's the guy that's going to be like, I'd say getting the more of the lion's share of the touches out of the two. But yeah, I mean, I'd say both guys are flexible. I mean, it's one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. I mean, we've seen they can put up big numbers, especially if that defense is that bad. I mean, they're going to be in
It
a lot
looks
of
bad.
shootouts this year.
It
A
looks
lot of
bad.
shootouts this year. I mean, you're
Yeah.
letting like
Since
the Panthers hang 24 on you, and that's
at
kind
the
of
Red Rocket, I get it's a revenge game, but still, it's the Red Rocket, dude.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, although the Panthers, I mean, that's like what 60 points in the past 3 games or past 2 games.
Mm-hmm. Offense
You know,
definitely looks much better. Let's move on to the Houston Texans taking care of business to improve to 3-1 atop the division over the Jags. 24-20 Jags, 0-4. A lot of shit to talk about the Jags. Let's talk about Houston first. CJ Stroud. I knew this was a smash spot. 345 and 2 touchdowns. I said take his
smash.
over in yards. What did I say? Nico Collins is going to score. He's going to go for 150. What'd he do? 12 for 151 and a touchdown. Cashing leg number 2 in Big Dog's parlay. Let's go.
Big dog.
Diggs, 5 for 69. Added a rushing touchdown. That was a nice little play here. But clearly, Nico and Diggs are just eating in this offense right now, paired with CJ Stroud. Run game was okay with Cam Akers, but doesn't matter when CJ Stroud's doing that. Now let's talk about the Jags, Reagan. Trevor Lawrence, 169, 2 touchdowns. Okay. That looks okay on paper. Not a ton of passing yards. Brian Thomas Jr. looks legit, though. That's a positive for Jags fans. 6 for 86 and another touchdown. Christian Kirk, a nice bounce back, 761 and a touchdown. Those are all good. But they lost another game, and Doug Peterson, do you see his comments after the game, Reagan?
I did not. What'd he say?
Oh, whoa. So a reporter asked about his job status, and he goes, well, that's a weird question. He did not like that. And he
You don't
also had
ask
a
about a man's job.
he
You just
also
don't.
had a quote where he said, coaches can't go out there and make plays, kind of throwing his guys under the bus in the media. A bold strategy. I don't know, man. I don't like it. It's a bold strategy. You're going to start to have that locker room turn on you. Or maybe he's trying to light a fire. I don't know, but the Jags are 0-4, and Shad Khan is not a patient owner. Something's got to give here.
Yeah, and I thought the Jaguars would play well. That I mean, I didn't surprise me that they would cover. I thought their backs were against the wall. I mean, they could have won that game. I mean, it came down to a CJ Stroud, 2-minute drill down the wire to get the touchdown. But they were in it. They looked better. I mean, Christian Kirk's finally getting involved. I mean, something that was kind of odd to me that he wasn't after being Lawrence's favorite target. But if people dropped him or traded him in your league, he may be on waiver wire still if he wasn't picked up last week. But he's a guy who clearly is getting there, double-digit targets in the past 2 weeks. I mean, obviously no Ingram again this week. But yeah, the Jags are. I mean, their defense is terrible. I mean, the offense is starting to get better, but it's not a great spot. And then obviously Nico and Diggs, we were kind of going back and forth, like which one's the one to have. Obviously Nico's better, but obviously his ADP was like reflecting that. But both guys have been great for fantasy so far, so you're happy with that. And then Tank Dell obviously missed, but even then he wasn't. He was obviously the number 3. So if you took Diggs or Collins, you're very happy thus far.
Yeah, my best team right now is I got CeeDee Lamb in the first. Nico Collins fell to me in the fourth, and that was just an absolute steal. You can make a case he's the wide receiver 1 for fantasy football the rest of the way with how he's been playing, dude. You really can.
Yeah, I mean he's leading the league in receiving yards right now. He's at
By a wide
489.
Neighbors is second, and I believe Nico's it's almost 100 yards up that he's up on second,
Yeah, and it's crazy because he only has 30 catch. I mean, he's averaging 16.3 yards a catch. It's
which is
really high,
nuts. He's on
and
pace for
122
2K.
yards a game. Yeah,
Can we Nico Collins 2K watch, dude? I don't know, man. That's crazy. That is crazy. And when you have Diggs
especially
on the
because he did
opposite
nothing
side,
early on.
it's not like you could force all your attention on Nico. You got Diggs and then you got Tank in the slot, but the offense is just so lethal through the air right now that it's not another question. And before we move off this game, Reagan, you want to chime in?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I mean, it took him till year 3 to break out, but that's the funny thing with dynasty leagues, man. That's why it's like, you draft a guy, don't drop him after 1, 2 years. I mean, some of these guys you gotta hold, and there's probably a lot of people who drafted him in dynasty, like, having expectations, and after a year or 2, they're like, "Nope, this guy's nothing," dropped him, and then now now look at him, he's debatable one of the top, you know, I don't know if I don't know if I could put him top 5, but,
You could
because it's a
argue
little
it.
recency bias, but, I mean, at this point, I'd say he's a top 10 wide receiver. I mean, you could put him in the top 5 conversation. It might be a little, recency bias him, but I don't know. He's definitely making an argument.
You certainly could. You certainly could. And I know at one point Nico was on my team and I dropped him, and I'm really kicking myself because that'd be nice to have with Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb. One more thing before
Mhm.
we move off this game.
Poor guy.
Tank Bigsby, 7 for 90, long of 58. Travis Etienne continues to struggle, 11 for 50. Could we see a changing of the guard?
I don't know if we'll see it changing, but I think it'll just, if anything, become a 50-50 timeshare. I don't think there's a world where Bigsby takes over as the main guy. I still don't see that unless injuries. But I just think they're just different play styles, And ETN's such a dynamic pass catcher that I think even if he loses some more of the running back carries, I still think he'll be the third down back, getting the receiving work.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. The Commanders. Jeez, man. Jaden Daniels looks like the real deal.
Deal. Oh yeah.
26 for 30, 233. Touchdown and a pick, but did have 8 for 47 and a touchdown on the ground. The final leg catching big dogs parlay after Marvin Harrison
Hmm.
Jr. opened up and scored the first touchdown in this game. So that was nice. I was losing my shit in this living room. When that happens, Jaden Daniels leads the league in completion percentage. He's doing it with
Yeah.
his legs.
Didn't have that one on my bingo card.
I made a bold statement. I believe by the end of next season, Jaden Daniels is going to be in top 5 quarterback conversations in the league. Am I crazy for thinking that? I know it's only 4 starts, but you see the
Yeah.
tools, the accuracy, the deep ball, the legs, the anticipation, avoiding sacks. He was not sacked in this game.
I want to pause a little bit there just because he hasn't. I don't want to discredit it, but he hasn't exactly played the best defenses out there yet. The Cardinals. I mean, the Bengals, the
And look at his
Giants,
schedule for the next
the
couple weeks.
Bucks.
It's
As I
still
mean,
juicy.
no, I know. I think this will be a better test if he's able to continue and like look dominant against the Browns and the Ravens, two veteran defenses with a lot of guys. Then I think you can have that conversation. I just think it's a little premature because yes, he's had the success, and I'm not trying to discredit him, but it's like look who he's done it against. I mean, he's definitely the favorite for the rookie of the year, but to say he's could be top 5 next year after what he's done through 4 games, a little premature for me. And also, like, I'm a little concerned. I mean, 6'4", 210. I mean, it's a little as with as much as them are running him. I just don't want to see him get injured and deal with injuries because they're running him too much. I'd like to see them kind of cut it back a little bit with the run plays. I mean, he's not the heaviest guy. If he puts on some more weight, yeah, but I'd hate to see him be used like Cam Newton and some of those bigger guys that like he's just not built like that yet. So I think I'd like to see him put on some more weight next year as well.
I got you on that. On the running game, Robinson for 100 yards and a touchdown again. He looks really good thus far this season. And with Eckler out, Jeremy McNichols, 8 for 68 and 2 touchdowns. One thing I will say about these commies, their offensive line looks significantly better from last year.
Oh, the Commanders 100%. And a lot of that is maybe having a guy who's more mobile and not holding onto the ball. Because in fairness, Howell did not give them the best rep. I mean, he was holding onto the ball way too long.
That is very
So
true. Very true.
got to give him a little bit of credit. But yes, the line's obviously very improved this year.
And it was Zacchaeus, the leading receiver this week, 6 for 85. However, Terry McLaurin, 7 for 52, and did score another touchdown. Awesome to see for fantasy holders. For the Cardinals, I was surprised that they only hung 14 here. They went right down and they scored first drive of the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. with that touchdown on that fourth and I believe it was fourth and shorts. It was not goal, but they were within the 5. He only had 5 for 45 and a touchdown. So that was disappointing. Kyler only threw for 142 here, Reagan. Connor did punch one in and run for 100, but
Hmm.
surprised this Cardinals offense did not do more against the Commanders defense that really has struggled, particularly on the back end.
Yeah, you would have thought. I mean, coming into it, it's kind of a smash play. But I was saying, I mean, like Dan Quinn is a good coach. I mean, he had a lot of good defenses with Dallas and Atlanta. So he's got that like very untalented Washington defense playing really well. So I think that really speaks to Dan Quinn. And we saw them kind of improve last week against the Bengals. And yeah, they let up 33 points, but you know what? They were running a lot of prevent kind of like taking the foot off the gas pedal. Like, hey, we're doing what we want offensively at will. Like, we'll let you chew up the clock and have some of those like dink and donks. So I don't know. I think we got to give the Commanders defense a little bit more credit, but you would have liked to see more to Kyler. I mean, it's not the best thing, but he's missing Trey McBride. That's a big piece for that offense. So with him coming back, hopefully next week from the concussion, I think a lot of it will improve going forward. But not great from Kyler, especially after we've seen him do early on this year, especially against the Rams and the Bills.
Commanders leading the division at 3-1.
Who had that on their
Cardinals
bingo
and
card? Who had it?
nobody.
Walmart, maybe.
Nobody. Cardinals, no, not even Walmart. Cardinals in the basement of the NFC West at 1-3. Speaking of the NFC West, let's move on. The Niners take care of business against the Pats. 2-2 now for the Niners. Pats now 1-3 and 30-13 ass beating here. Purdy looked great again, 15 for 27, 288, a touchdown. Did have a pick, but it was okay because Jordan Mason on the ground, a buck 20 and a touchdown. You called it, Reagan. Mason was going to have a big game in this one, and of course, Jawan
Mhm.
Jennings led the team in receiving, even with Debo and Kittle back in the picture with 88
Yeah.
yards. Although Kittle scored, so then that was a
Had
sick
a
catch
sick
over
touch.
three
Yeah.
guys.
Sick
Over three
touchdown catch.
guys, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, that was sick. And I will say on the Patriots side of things, I think there's a good chance they go to Drake May this week. Don't be shocked at all if he plays this week. If
Fred
they
Warner
don't do
pick
it this
six.
week,
Pick
what'd
six.
you say?
Fred Warner. Fred Warner pick six
Oh,
off
oh, oh!
Brissett.
I thought you were saying something about Drake May.
No, yeah. But Brissett, like again, did not look good. Like, is it
No,
time to let the kid play?
I think at this point, I mean, the offensive line's terrible. It's either, I don't know, because it's hard for me because it's like if you don't let him play now, when are you really going to put him in? I mean, at least if you put him against the Miami's team that's just limping right now, just hasn't looked great. I mean, just a ton of injuries everywhere. Okay, otherwise you can't really play. You don't want to start him against the Texans. And do you want to start him in London? Probably not. Then after that against the Jets, I don't know. And I mean, the Titans, Bears, Rams. I mean, it gets a little softer later in the year, but it's like I don't know. I feel like this is a good start where it's like, get a win under his belt. I don't hate the Jacksonville matchup. It's just the fact that it's in London. I think that's rough to start him there. So I don't know. I mean, I guess they could wait till they're bye, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. But I'm just saying, don't be shocked if they put him in this week.
Yeah, I think that was probably their game plan before the season was wait until the bye week. So you give him 2 weeks to prep for that first game, right? So he kind of knows the way it operates game week. And then he has 2 weeks to watch film and prep and get ready to roll and get comfortable. So
Well,
that
see,
would make sense. But also,
and
like,
their bye
Brissett's
week's
been
week
brutal.
14. Their bye week's week 14. So, like, do you want to wait that
Oh,
long
gee.
too?
I didn't realize it was week 14,
Yeah, no,
bro.
they have it's December 8th is
Oh,
that
you
like
can't
that
wait
week
that
would
long.
be.
Yeah,
So that's
I'm
another
wrong.
thing,
You
it's
can't
not even
wait
like
that
wait
long.
that's what I'm saying, so that's why it's like, when is a good time to do it? And it's like, I feel like you don't wanna start him against a really good team, so and then you're not gonna start him in London, so it's just I'd rather them put him in now against the team that you could beat, otherwise it's just continuing to pushing it down the line. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing really to write home about this New England offense right now, to be honest with you. Ramondre fumbled
Terrible,
for
man.
the fourth
Another
straight
week?
game. So that's
I
just
didn't
a
even
really
realize that.
big issue. Really big issue where he's going to start losing touches. Like, you can argue like
How
one
can you
fumble
not?
whether or not you should bench a guy, but 4 weeks in a row, dude, that's a fumbling problem. It's officially.
He's lucky Bill's not the coach still.
Oh yeah, he'd be benched. He wouldn't even see a touch this week if Bill was still the coach. All
No.
right, the Raiders take care of business at home against the Browns. Raiders now 2-2. Browns 1-3, and the Browns win total now. The live win total is now the lowest of any team in the league at 5.5. Reagan.
Wait, what?
Yes, the
Really?
live win total that you can live during the season, 5.5, the lowest of any team, and that's probably because they're coming off back-to-back losses to the Raiders and the Giants, two teams that a lot of people anticipated to be drafting top 10 next year.
Wow, bro, what?
Yeah,
Well,
it's
I
Deshaun
see the
Watson, dude. It's
the
Deshaun
Panthers are
Watson.
5 and well, the Panthers are still 5.5. The Browns are 5.5, but I mean, they're tied. The Patriots are 5.5. I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, the Titans, even the Jaguars are 6.5 at 0-4. Titans are 5.5. Yeah, I mean, I guess
Crazy, right?
they're with all those bad teams. Yeah, I mean, the Vikings 11.5. That's crazy. Who would have thought it would get that high? Kinda like
Wow.
the under on that. I'm still not
I
bought
do
in.
like the under on that too.
Um, who else is there? I mean, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking real quick. I mean, it's all yeah, Giants 5.5. So yeah, they're right in the thick of things with all those bad teams right now.
Yeah,
Fuck,
dude.
man. I feel
And
bad for the Browns fans because every week they have a chance, and then it's just the line looks terrible. There's no run game. Deshaun Watson always looks like he's running for his life, and then he just gets freaking smacked. I mean, it's just it's a tough spot to be in. It might be the worse than the Panthers situation. No, it definitely is because you don't owe all that money to a quarterback. At least the Panthers could be like, all right, if Bryce isn't the guy, like we could draft someone else and get out of it easily. Where the Browns are fucked for a couple more years.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
contract kills them. Where the Panthers, at least, it's like, all right, we could go get a quarterback, and maybe he comes in as just like Wonder Boy or some shit.
And they've continued to kick the can down the road on that contract and push guaranteed money into later years where you can't get out of it. And now, like in this game, Amari Cooper had 4 for 35, where he's looked good at points, but it's just him and Watson can't seem to be on the same page consistently. Jerry Judy, 6 for 72. I guess that's a positive, but now there's trade rumors about Amari Cooper, Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you should be selling at this point. At a certain, maybe not yet. I'm not fully out on them because the defense is sick. But if you lose a couple more and you're like, I don't know, like 2-6 or 1-7, even 3 and like you know what I mean? Like it's getting close to that deadline. Like, why not sell everybody? Get some picks back. I mean, you just got to blow it up at a certain point
Yeah, but it's just so
because you'll never
difficult to
be a
blow it up.
contender with Watson.
They're all
So
in though. Like they were all in with Watson, but Cooper's contract's like 20 million per year. Getting that off the books to give him a little bit of breathing room, and Cooper is getting up there in age, so could make sense. I'm trying to
for a
get
contender, I could see a contender going for him.
yeah, like Kansas City. That seems to make a lot of sense because it's not in the
But even a
division.
team like, I keep going back to the Commander, like one of these teams with a young quarterback that's like, "Oh, wait, like we're ahead of our window right now. Like, let's go get him another weapon." You know what I mean? Like they got the money, so I don't know.
Yeah, for the Raiders, Minshew struggled again, only threw for a buck 30. The run game, Zamir White 17 for 50, still has just been terrible to the point where Alexander Madison had 5 for 60. But Antonio Pierce said he's getting more touches. So Zamir White, fantasy holders, it seems like it's not going to work out for you this year. And with no Devontae Adams, really the receiving core struggled. But the Raiders got the win, 20-16. That's all they needed to do.
Mhm, mhm.
All right, Kansas City takes care of business against the Chargers, 17-10 to improve to 4-0. Chargers 2-2, but they were up 10-0 in the first and just didn't score the rest of the game. Justin Herbert threw for a buck 79 and a touchdown. The run game was brutal. So one thing I'm really picking up on early in the season is that Chiefs run defense is elite, and it's not like if you have a running
Well
back that's not a star caliber player in your fantasy lineups, like a J.K. Dobbins type of guy in this game, like put those guys on the bench. Now, obviously, you're
well.
keeping your stars in, but dude, they shut down
Hold on.
Bijan as well.
No, I understand that, but let's take a little bit of a step back. They had no Slater and they had no,
I
Alt,
get it,
so
but Atlanta's
no, but I mean,
offensive
that's a
line is
big
like top 10 in the league, and Bijan went 15 for
No, I
32 the week
understand, but,
before.
like, I think if they have those 2 guys, we're not like I'm not discrediting the Chiefs, I'm just saying, like, I don't think you have to worry about the Chargers' run game. I think it's just a big aspect is you just took out an all-pro tackle, and then I think Alt's a future all-pro, so, you take out 2 studs, yeah, obviously, putting backups in against a good defense is gonna suffer, so I wouldn't be worried about J.K. Dobbins here at all if I had him,
No,
like,
no, I'm not worried
I'm
about
throwing this one out the
Dobbins.
window.
I'm more so saying Kansas City's run defense is elite because you look at Derrick Henry. The only game this year he's averaged less than 4 yards per carry was against Kansas City as well.
I mean,
Like,
yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely some I mean, he's also heating up quick. I mean, every week he's been getting stronger and stronger. So, I mean, but yeah, I agree. I'm not trying to take it away from the Chiefs. I just think it's, a lot of factors going into it. It's such a weird team. Everything just seems to go in their favor always. I don't know. I don't know.
I know it
I'm a
really
hater.
does.
I'm a
I
hater.
mean, a
Just
positive for the Chargers here. Lad McConkey, 5 for 67, had a nice touchdown. So Lad McConkey looks like a solid draft pick
Mhm.
for the Chargers. For
For
the
sure.
Chiefs, after Carson Steele's fumble, Reed did not put him back in the game, and Kareem Hunt took over 14 for 69 as the leading rusher. However, P. Ryan got the touchdown. And finally, Kelsey's breakout game, although he didn't score, had 7 for 89 on 9 targets once Rice left the game. A very good sign for Kelsey fantasy holders, you included, Reagan.
Yeah. Now, my question is about Hunt. What percentage of your fab are you dropping on him? Because clearly he's going to be the guy till Pacheco's back, which sounds like his minimum 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, I
So
got Hunt in one league. I picked him up as soon as I saw he was coming in for a visit. But I mean, the number one back in that offense, and he looked, I mean, he wasn't super efficient, but he looked pretty good.
I mean,
I
he
don't know,
will be the
man.
number one. He will be the number one waiver wire option in this league in any competitive league that he's out there. I mean, he will be the number one guy. There's not many starting running backs out there that you can get, and he's a guy that I would say is like a mid to low end flex, but he's a guy you can play. So with that volume, I mean, I know in my league you get $100 in fab. I'm dropping 50% tonight on him because you know I'll take a 6 week rental of a starting running back. I mean, it's all about getting to the playoffs. So if I can get there, anything's possible. But yeah, I'm dropping half my fab on him because you also don't want to hold it all season, and there's never that big guy. And yeah, maybe it'll burn me dropping that much on Hunt, and then next week, somebody else will go down, and some guy's the clear cut guy for the full season. But I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at is half your fab on him.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible call, to be honest with you, because it's also the Kansas City Chiefs. You're paired with Patrick Mahomes. So even though they're losing weapons outside, it means more work for the running backs. And Xavier Worthy, finally, 3 for 73, another touchdown, a longer 54. Mahomes hit him on that deep ball. Still not a lot of output, but the big play potential will always have him viable, it seems like, as a flex play here. All
Yeah.
right, Sunday Night Football, Reagan. Let's cruise through this.
Oh, I
Baltimore
love this as
whooped
a Jet fan.
ass, and we knew they would. 35-10 here. Lamar 13 of 18 for 156, 2 touchdowns. Didn't really have to throw the ball that much because Derrick Henry
No.
24 for 199 and a touchdown. Unfortunately, 1 yard short of a 200-yard game, which would have had him with the most 200-yard rushing games of all time. Would have been pretty cool. One
Well, the
yard
way he's
short
running, I
though.
think he might get that record still. I don't think you need to
I
count him out.
I think you will too, man, because the Bills are no slouch on defense. And Lamar also had 54 and a touchdown on the ground. The leading receiver, Justice Hill, of course, 6 for 78 and a touchdown. None of the
He looks
receivers.
good too.
He
He looks
does.
great. Like he looks like a, a,
Absolutely.
a viable flex option every week. I mean, he's heavily involved. They went out and paid him. They gave him the extension. I mean, it wasn't a crazy extension. I think it was 2 for 6, but I mean, they still committed to him as the change of pace backup for Henry that's going to be involved. So, I mean, I know I have Keaton Mitchell, a guy who showed some juice last year, stashed in a dynasty league, but it looks like Justice Hill is in their future plans.
Oh, 100%. For the Bills here, Josh Allen
Oh wait, one
struggled.
more
Only
thing. Mark Andrews, another week of no catches and one target. I mean, at this point, I think you can drop him. I mean, likely is taking over. They're using him as more of a blocker. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's just not what you drafted him to be. He may end up being the biggest bust this year.
oh,
I
100%, dude.
mean,
I mean, unless
2 targets over the past 2 weeks, one in each game, 0 yards. I mean, you can't start him. You can't start
no.
him. I mean, I'm a little hesitant to drop him still. But I mean, if you got a lot of injuries and you don't have a lot of bench spots, I mean, I'd drop his ass. I mean, you definitely can't start him. I mean, likely he's taking over that job at this point. I mean, they're using him almost as a sixth lineman because of all the offensive line issues. I don't know, man.
Couple things there. Likely only had 1 for 26 here. They didn't have to throw the ball. Still, he's taking over.
No, yeah,
Two,
that's on the snap
two.
percentage.
If it's dynasty, I'm not dropping him because you have deep benches. If it's
Yeah,
redraft,
that's what I'm.
you could
Yeah.
drop him. You could drop him. 3, who's the one that said last year, I think Isaiah Likely's better than Mark Andrews? Come on, dude. Come on. I said it last year.
Well, I don't even know if he's better. They're just not using him. Like they're not like
You
letting
think
him
John
play.
Harbaugh is not going to use the better player at this point?
No, I know. I mean, but it's weird. They're like not even using him, bro. Like
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
It's weird. The
Dude, it's
snap
a head
percentage is so
scratcher.
either that or he's not fully healthy yet. There
And
could
I
be injuries
remember
going, but
when
I
we were
don't know.
doing
Weird
the
stuff.
AFC North pod, Reagan, our first one of the preseason, the trivia question that Trock asked, who led the team in receiving touchdowns? It was Mark Andrews, and he only played 10 games in the regular season last year, I think. And he still led the
Yeah,
team in receiving touchdowns. So, yeah, he got hurt. He came back, though, and now it's just like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if it's the
yeah,
offensive system because they have Horse Henry. They want to run the ball more and use him as a blocker, but he's just not going out there to run routes. Now, Likely's
weird
definitely
stuff.
more electric in the receiving game. He's got more to offer. He's more athletic, but still, like Andrews was working the middle of the field so well for this team for the last several years that it's just so odd.
Yeah, man. I don't even know what I really don't know what to say. I don't. But
Yeah.
let's get into the Bills. I mean, I
They
love
got
this
shut
team.
down here, dude. This Ravens defense, which had allowed the most passing yards in the league up to this point, really buckled down against Josh Allen after he diced up the Jaguars. I mean, Shakir 4 for 62, Keon 3 for 51, Kincaid 5 for 47. Outside of that, really nothing. And Cook struggled to get going on the ground. Just a dud of a game for Buffalo. And that weird trick play really screwed them as well, in which Josh Allen got stripped of the ball and banged up
And
a
lit
little
up.
bit.
He got nailed on that. But dude, I guess we're starting to see some of the flaws. I mean, when the defense isn't like playing at an elite level, and then you can't get the because the Bills want to run the ball. I mean, they got to hide for the lack of weapons they have at the wide receiver core, so they want to establish the run so they can beat with the play action. And when the defense is bleeding points and you can't get the run going, I mean, we saw that you can expose the Bills. You just gotta you gotta stop the run, and they're just not able to. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to go far in the playoffs. I'm not overreacting yet, but I think a lot of people were already like, all right, they're still Super Bowl contenders. But I think we kind of saw them get dropped back down to like they have some major issues here on that defense. I mean, Matt Milano not being there and obviously hasn't been there for a while is a huge issue. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
But that's the
and
NFL for you. I mean, the
absolutely.
Ravens can lose to the Raiders, who can lose um to the Panthers and then the Bills can kill the Jaguars, and then they go out and get killed by the Ravens. It's just a weird, weird NFL league, and that's why
Any
survivor pools are
given
so freaking
week,
hard.
any given
Yeah,
Sunday, brother.
any given Sunday.
Buffalo still 3-1, Baltimore 2-2. They seem to be like they're on the right track here after losing a close one to Kansas City just by a toe in week 1 and then that dud against the Raiders. But hey, Baltimore seems to be a playoff team in my opinion. All right, let's not spend a lot of time on Tennessee Miami, please. This was an ugly football game, and then Tennessee kind of took over in the second half. Rudolph only threw for 85, Levis 25 on 4 attempts. Pollard 22 for 88 and a touchdown, which was nice. Spears 15 for 39 and a touchdown. He looks pretty explosive. That was good to see. Nothing to write home about the receiving core here. D Hop 2 for 31, Boyd 2 for 31, Pollard 2 for 20, but
I will
really
say pick up D
nothing
Hop because
crazy.
he's been unlimited snaps, and I think after the bye week, which they have a week 5 bye, he will then get back to like full time stuff. So if he's on your waivers, I mean, I know I was able to pick him up in a league. A lot of people are kind of down on him, but I would go pick him up because I mean, he put up big production in week 3, and that was on like 40% of snaps. So as the production goes up, I mean, him and Will Levis, I think he will become his number one target. And I mean, right away you saw they had the big play, and then as soon as Levis got hurt, I mean, they also weren't really trying to pass the ball, but even when they were, he was getting a lot of targets. It was just he's also being covered by Ramsey the whole time. So yeah, you're gonna avoid that and try to target some other matchups. But they didn't need to either. So they really could just run the ball all they wanted.
100%. And also another veteran that could be on the move to a contender, honestly,
Yeah,
right? He's getting up there
yeah,
in age. Like, it seems like there's a big market right now, a lot of seller's market for wide receivers that are veterans on bad teams.
yeah.
For Miami, I mean, Huntley was just god awful. Threw for 96, underthrew Hill in a deep ball, and then overthrew Hill in a deep ball. Tyreek seems really frustrated, 4 for 23, but it's like when he gets the ball, really, and they try to get him the ball on the ground as well. He had 3 carries for 19 yards, but teams just know when the ball's going to Hill, they're all sprinting outside and really closing on him right now, where there's just not a
You
lot of room
have
for
to.
him to
You
operate.
just can't
Yeah.
let him get. You can't give him any space, and you'll stop him.
And I think Jalen Waddle, he had 4 for 36. I think you can bench Jalen Waddle and not blink twice. I benched him in
Oh, I said
thirsty
to. Yeah.
jersey. Thirsty jersey. Jalen Waddle's bench for me. I'm starting Josh
Well,
Downs over him.
dude, even on the he could have had a touchdown, and he just runs out at the one. He didn't even like try to dive to get in. I don't know if you saw that towards the end of the game. And then
Yeah.
Huntley, who I guess just take the wheel for the first team touchdown score. That would have cashed. Thank you, Paul Smith.
A couple
Um,
times it would have cashed this
yeah.
year, which is
Either
good,
take
which
him,
is
either start
frustrating.
taking the guy anytime or take it as the first team touchdown score because that's hit a couple times.
Yeah, I
But
know.
regardless, it'll smack. Just trust. But yeah, I mean, he looked terrible. And we were having that debate. Should they go out and get someone? Everyone's like, oh, they got Huntley. They'll be fine. I'll still give him some slack because he only just joined the team 2 weeks ago. And I would imagine they'll give him another shot because he still looked way better than Thompson and Boyle. But I don't know. I really don't know. And also,
Yeah.
like, they might just push Tua back in sooner than later. I mean, he was on the sideline, so you'd imagine things are progressing, right? 'Cause, I mean, if you have a concussion and you're able to sit on the sideline, you think things are
I
going
know
well.
that as well. And they said that he's showing no symptoms right now, and they're targeting a week 8 return right when he gets off IR, Reagan.
Which, if that's the case, week 8, you would imagine they're just going to roll with Huntley till he's ready to go because he's still looked the best. And I don't think at that point, if you're expecting him to come back, you're going to give up any capital to get a quarterback.
Yes. And Devon Achan, tough for fantasy holders because he looked so good the first 2 weeks. He apologized to fantasy holders after a
Oh,
10 carry for 15-yard game and only adding 3 catches for 14 yards. Man, we might have a Mike McDaniel problem here because you see all these coaches with backup quarterbacks continue to win games. LaFleur with Willis, Darnold's in Minnesota with O'Connell. I mean, it's time. Is McDaniel not that guy? I mean, it's time to start having that conversation. If is he just dependent on Tua and his timing in that offense?
Yeah, no, I mean, the question needs to be had.
It needs to be
That
had.
I mean, it definitely does. So his seat's heating up quickly. I mean, you're supposed to be one of the best coaches in the league. I mean, you gotta win a couple games, so you can't I mean, I don't know. You see, like, guys like Sean McVay when their teams are down, they still figure out a way. The Kyle Shanahans, I mean, some of these guys, I mean, they just, yeah, you deal with an injury, but they still figure out ways to win, and they haven't even figured out a way to look competent, let alone win a game.
Yep.
So,
All right, last game on the docket. It's been a long pod, Reagan. We're really diving deep into these games, but I'm loving it. The Lions
yeah,
take care of business. We were all over this one, 42-29. So many injuries to that Seattle front with Byron Murphy out, Leonard Williams out, Nwosu out, and I expected Detroit run the ball down their throats. And they did initially. Montgomery had, I believe, 38 yards in the first drive. I had 70 rushing yards. I was a little pissed he had 2 the rest of the game. He did
yeah,
score, though, catching Drox locks. Gibbs had 2 touchdowns and 78 rushing yards. But the passing game really exploded here. Jared Goff setting an NFL record for most completions without an incompletion, 18 for 18, 292, 2 touchdowns. Also caught a touchdown from Amon-Ra. That was a pretty
yep,
sick
yep.
play here. And they really spread the ball around. Jameson Williams, a 70-yard touchdown. Only had 2 targets, but that's what you need if you're the Lions. That
Yeah, who
big
cares?
play
I mean,
threat when you have Amon-Ra work in the middle of the field, 6 for 45 and a touchdown. And Laporta coming to life here, 4 for 53, Reagan.
yeah, I mean, he's still not 100%, but that's definitely encouraging, and I think over the bye week, they'll figure some things out. So he's a guy I actually would go and try to target and get for the cheap where, people are still a little fatigued. They're going into the bye week. You might be able to go get him for cheap, where I think he'll have a better, better production, better days ahead after the bye week. And Tim Patrick too. I mean, he was involved
Yeah,
as well. So
2
if
for
he can kind of
52.
get that number 3 role from Khalif Raymond, who it's
Khalif
kind of both of them
Raymond.
are like the 3-4. I don't know if either of them's really established herself. But if Tim Patrick can, I mean, he's flexible. I mean, this offense is so high powered.
No, come on. You're not
It
starting
just
Tim Patrick.
in
You're
bye weeks,
desperate.
I'm
You're
just saying
desperate.
speculative add. Maybe don't add him yet, but just keep some tabs on him. See if he continues to get involved because he looked good last night. A guy who's dealt with some injuries, but had some success with Denver. So I'm just saying, keep an eye on him. See what happens over the next couple weeks.
And that Montgomery 40-yard reception was absolutely disgusting.
Oh
Like, you
my
don't
gosh.
think of Montgomery in the open field like that. That was nasty.
No, that's like Derrick Henry esque stiff arm. That was disgusting.
Yep.
And then he juked out Witherspoon too again and made him he fell over again. But hey, Witherspoon does get some credit. I mean, he still did not give up on that play and still was able to get out there and push him out of bounds. So I'll give him
Yes.
some credit on that. I mean, you can't teach that. That's gritty. Come on, young kids, watch that.
For Seattle here, Geno threw the ball 56 times with them playing from behind. 395, a touchdown, a pick. DK Metcalf, 7 for 104. Unfortunately, his elbow hit at the inch-yard line, of course, because I had his anytime touchdown score, so that was just great. But
Yeah.
DK Metcalf loves prime time, going for over 100 here. But it was the Kenneth Walker show, 12 for 80 and 3 touchdowns. Also added 4 catches for 36 yards. Now, a better game script, you'd like to get Walker over 20 carries in this type of game, the way he looked. And also, let's talk about his broken tackle, where I don't know how he didn't touch the
He
ground, but
looked
that
good.
was nuts. But yes, his first game back from injury, he looked really good. And Charbonnet only had 2 carries. So clearly, Walker is the dude in that backfield.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I thought they would kind of ease him back in. And he only had 12 carries, but for 80 yards and 3 touchdowns, he looked disgusting. And I know Geno I saw they put the graphic most passing yards he's ever had. I think the most attempts and the most completions. I mean, Geno, he might need some ice for that shoulder. Hey,
100%, dude.
Gino, you can hop in my ice bath when I'm done. That sounded kind of weird, but it's getting to
That
be
did
that time where I'm gonna
that
have to
did
get
sound
into one.
a little odd. But both teams at 3-1, but we see them in
Sorry,
different
like that.
tiers.
I'll cut that out later. That was
All
funny.
right, no, you're not. Reagan, that wraps up all the games. Let's take a quick break, and the next time you guys hear from us, Reagan will be in an ice bath.
Yeah. You could start whenever, Carson. Thanks. All right, guys. So we're here for the punishment, right? I mean,
Yeah, this is great. Get in that fucking tub, buddy.
I stopped at Bourbon Street, got 5 bags of ice. So just so you
That'll
know,
do.
it's legit. It's not a lukewarm bath. It's an ice bath.
Yeah, that looks good.
So,
That looks good.
you know, some of the aesthetics, The only thing is, I guess I'm gonna have to hop in with my headset. I probably should have got like a little ladder or something to hop in with, but whatever.
Yeah, you make sure you hold that mic up to your mitt.
So my mitt. I mean, why you can't hear me well right now?
I can hear you. It's just not as crystal clear as typical.
Okay, fair.
I love the ice going in. You got any more bags?
I got 2 more. I got 5, I said. I feel like that's fair. Also, like, that's what a sleeve comes in. I feel like 10 was a little overkill, in these hot October days. I didn't want to leave anyone out to dry with their liquor at the alcohol store.
This is great, dude.
But, yeah, Colin, you want to give, for those maybe who just are tuning into this segment, you want to give a little backstory real quick for why I'm doing this?
Yeah, so if you're just watching on YouTube, just this segment, so the reason we're doing this is our big bet of the week for an ice bath for 10 minutes during the questions was Giants-Cowboys. I took my Giants. I was fairly confident they were going to win outright. Reagan tried to bait me into taking the money line. I did not. I'm not an idiot.
You want to come take
it was 5.5 to spread, and the Giants covered thanks to Brandon Audrey finally missing a field goal of over 50 yards at the end of the game. So the Giants were able to hold on with the hook to get the cover. Reagan tried to be sneaky and say it was 4.5, but I wasn't having it. It was 5.5. So now my good friend Reagan, my co-host, is about to be a little chilly for the next 10 minutes.
Wait, Colin, are you that's cold. Before I get in officially, do you have the timer?
Yes, timer is ready to go.
All right. Oh. Got to get really flexible here.
How's that garbage can treating you? Oh, it's overflowing.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big boy.
Woo! All right, timer's on. All right, Zach, without further ado, what do we got for questions tonight?
Dude, I'm too big for this recycling can. This is too funny.
I want you to get your arms under. I need shoulders in.
It's hard, bro, because of the headset, and also I'm a big fella.
I'm going to pause the timer if you don't get further in. There we go. Oh my God.
All right, over to Drock first. Drock says, hey, Reagan, step up your game. Big dog, 3 for 4 on his big dog parlay and 4-0 on your ass in the weekly picks. And Drock is heating up.
Yeah, Drock. Let's go.
Yeah, Drock. I mean, I'm not on fire. I'm obviously ice cold. No pun intended there, mister.
All right, we got a fantasy question from Mr. Drock, and I think this is targeted at Colin. Hey, is ETN a good sell?
Oh, dude, I don't know.
I offered Drock 2 first round.
I
offered Drock 2 first round picks for ETN a couple weeks ago, and ETN has not lived up to it. I told him last night that offer is now off the table. So I know Drock probably would take that offer now, but it's no longer there.
All right, next up he asks, is DK Metcalf always a lock in primetime?
Well, he didn't score, but he still went for 100 yards. But DK loves primetime. I think definitely in the betting markets, you take his over yards, and you feel pretty good about a touchdown. He was plus 150 last night. Unfortunately, his elbow went down to the inch-yard line, and I did not cash. But DK in primetime is full go.
Yeah. So I would say with ETN, that's a good question. I mean, we were talking about it before, since we obviously went out of order. I think Bigsby will take over in a sense, but I still think it'll be 50-50. I mean, ETN's the talented pass catcher. Sorry, my voice is starting to go a little bit, but I mean, Bigsby's definitely a guy that you got to monitor now going forward. I suck at punishments. I think was the other part. What are we at right now?
You're only at 2 minutes, buddy.
All right, Walmart. Over to Walmart. He says the haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders.
They not like us, Walmart. That's what I'll say.
What is one move that every team in the NFC East and AFC East should make before the trade deadline? Oh, that's a lot of moves.
That's a lot of moves. What the Giants should do is, if they continue to lose, potentially trade Darius Slayton and get a draft pick back, although I don't necessarily love it, but let the young Buck and Hyatt play. What your Commanders should do is target a top-end wide receiver, in my opinion.
Wide receiver. Hey, how's my audio? You guys can hear me all right?
You're good.
Yep.
You're good.
Okay. I would say get a wide receiver.
I think the Jets can target a wide receiver as well, because Corley has struggled to get involved. I know Mike Williams coming back, but another wide receiver could help that offense that struggled a little bit with all the attention on Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall.
Hey, Reagan, get your shoulders under.
Yeah, dude.
I'm a big fella.
I'm gonna pause this timer.
Dude, I'm trying not to go too much because I don't want to get the mic soaked. I mean, I think we do have merch, so if you guys want to buy some of that merch.
I think Philly can stand pat. I think Dallas can also stand pat. They just don't seem to have the money. Jerry Jones thinks that the Dallas Cowboys are broke, apparently. New England, start Drake May. That's what you should do before the deadline. Buffalo, they could address. Maybe they go get a veteran wide receiver as well.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Sorry.
Reagan's
Let's move on.
flustered right now.
Next question from Walmart. Give me your early predictions of the top 5 rookies getting drafted and what teams they are going to.
Top 5
So-
rookies getting drafted.
Yeah, top 5 rookies for going into next season.
It looks like
just wide receivers or in general.
That
general.
looks like in general.
Isn't the kid from Oregon supposed to be good? Tez Johnson.
I don't think Tez will go top 5. I think you're looking at right now, Mel Kiper's big board has Shador as number 1 quarterback, but Jalen Milroe's making a push for that. So I think you see one of those quarterbacks up there. Travis Hunter has to be in the top 5, given his ability to play both sides of the ball, and he's such a good corner. Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan, is up there. There's 2 wide receivers, Luther Burden from Missouri. I forget.
Oh, yeah, you were hyping him up like crazy.
Yes, and the receiver from Arizona, his last name is really difficult to pronounce, but he's also a stud. So those are some guys that I think you can see up there. Also, a defensive lineman from Michigan, I believe it's Graham, also could be up there. And then there's also really good offensive tackles. Will Campbell from LSU. There's also a tackle from Texas, but I forget his name. That could be up there in the top 5.
Yeah. I mean, for fantasy, obviously, Ollie Gordon and what's the kid from Boise State?
Genty.
Yeah, Genty. I mean, 840-something rushing yards through 4 games with 13 touchdowns. I mean, he's not only putting them in a great spot to make the at-large bid or the non-power 5 spot in the college football playoffs, but I mean, he's just knocking himself up big boards. The only thing is he's only 5'9".
Yes, but he's in Heisman. He's in Heisman watch right now. He's top 5.
Yeah.
All right. Punishment idea.
Who's that? Grover and Kermit?
Yeah, it's Grover and Kermit here with Oscar. What do we got on the time?
Go ahead, Zach.
Wait,
Funny guy.
Punishment idea. Loser has to go buy a Jaden Daniels jersey, even though the winner should be doing that because it's a blessing to put that on. All
right, dude, get the hell out of here. We're not buying a fucking Jaden jersey, although he's a stud.
I think there's maybe a good punishment within that, though, that you have to buy like a DH gate jersey, and the loser or the winner gets to choose.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
My brain's a little fried right now.
All right, over to Garrett. What is going on with Davante Adams, and what would a team have to give up to get him?
That's probably good on filming for now.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier. Davante, clearly they don't want him there, and he doesn't want to be there. So I think a trade is imminent at this point. It seems like they want a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah, I don't know about
plus
that.
some more.
You want to grab the towel quick?
So that is what I would expect.
No, inside.
Reagan, this is terrible podcasting, brother.
I know. I'm sorry. What was next?
All right, next up, who's the worst head coach in the NFL right now?
Doug Peterson? Could you make the case it's Doug?
I don't think you can even make I think it is, bro. They're 0-4. I mean, he's coming out and saying stupid shit. I mean, they had a huge collapse last year. Here, shut the door, please. They had a terrible collapse last year. I mean, it's just not ideal. It's just, I would put him at the forefront right now. I mean, I know a lot of people were crapping on who's Dennis Allen for a while.
Dennis Allen, yes.
Obviously, they've been winning, so I don't know.
Yeah, Doug seems to be losing the locker room there. 7 minutes, Reagan.
Wow.
And the last question from Garrett. With the way the Dolphins look right now, how many wins do you see them getting this season?
I mean, if Tua's not coming back till week 8, yeah, if it's week 8, actually, then the Dolphins can make a run. But
I'd say 7 wins. I think they'll get 1 or 2 with Huntley. I still find it hard to believe. Maybe not 2, but they're not gonna. I mean, but then again, if they're 1-6 by the time Tua's back, like where are they at? Are they like, do they even want to risk him? Or are they like, you know what, this year's over? It's weird, man. You know.
It is. I think their ceiling is probably 8 wins at this point.
All right, over to Caleb. What the hell happened to the Jets? Please explain. Didn't watch.
You explain, Reagan.
Hackett things. I mean, 45 passing attempts when it's pouring rain. That makes sense. You know, running the ball 18 times combined with Brees and Allen. I mean, just stupid. The defense looked great. I mean, but
get more submerged.
Coaching is an issue. The coaching is a huge issue here.
All right, his next question, fantasy question, is Wan'Dale Robinson creeping into the flex/wide receiver conversation for fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, he's not
I think
a
he's already
guy
in
that
it, bro, with the targets he's getting.
yes, for
And the catches.
PPR specifically, because he gets so much work in the intermediate part of the field and a lot underneath. So for PPR purposes, yeah. Now it's still not an offense. It's going to have a ton of passing touchdowns, but from a pure volume standpoint, he's got a pretty high floor that he's definitely flexible.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would play him at this point. He's Jones's go-to check down, 3rd and 7. You need 5. You need 7. He gets you 4.
Yep, exactly. 9 minutes, Reagan. 9 minutes.
All right, over to Austin. Who was the best team in week 4?
Great question.
Baltimore, dude. They routed the 3-0 Bills. Just absolutely dominated 38-10.
Yeah.
It's got to be Baltimore. They just showed everybody that they're the biggest threats to Kansas City in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm trying to
All
think
right.
who else had a big win. Am I forgetting someone? There was another big one.
Tampa Bay whooped the shit out of the Eagles.
Broncos, man. I mean, I got to give them some credit. 2 straight
Yeah.
wins against 2 very good teams that we expect to be in the playoffs. Got to give the Broncos some credit. It was ugly, but they got the win, and a win's a win.
All right,
You have
who's next?
10 seconds, Reagan.
All
10
right, just
seconds.
let us finish it up before you do another question because we're going to cut it because I'm going to get out. And, dude, this was terrible. I mean, good punishment, Jared, but this was
Good. You're out. You're done, Reagan. Good shit.
Can I get out, though? Oh, pins and needles.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to do that one.
Yeah, also, it's a lot easier when you're in Hunterdon County, but, what would you guys have done?
I don't know what I would have done. No idea.
Honestly. All right, we're going to take a quick break so I can go and, change real quick, and then we'll be back with the rest of the question.
Yeah, now we are.
All right, I got to say, Reagan, you took that like a champion, brother.
Yeah, I'm fucking very cold. Very cold. But honestly, if I took a hot shower, I'd be, burning alive. I don't even know what to do.
You got to let your body just kind of readjust for a couple minutes.
No, that's what we got the rest of this pod for.
Rest of the questions, brother. All right, let's finish it up, Z.
All right, next up from Austin. What was the biggest week 4 surprise / disappointment?
The Jets were the biggest disappointment, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You're at home. The biggest surprise, you could say Denver again. I mean, you could say the Ravens again, killing them like that. Maybe Seattle getting beat by 13 to Seahawks fans. Not to me, but that might be a big surprise to those guys since they were all giving me a ton of shit for saying Detroit would kill them. While Seattle's offense looked great, their defense has issues. And that was kind of the biggest thing is their secondary has not been tested. And clearly, they got tested last night, and they got an F.
I would say the Commanders winning by 4 touchdowns on the road against Arizona. The way their defense rebounded after, the first drive by Arizona. Really, really surprising for me because would you say I went 12-4 against the spread last week? So
for both, straight up and spread.
Yeah, 12-4. So that's one I got wrong. I was very surprised about that outcome.
All right, next up, what was the best matchup in week 4?
I mean, Falcons Saints division game, close coming down to a game-winning field goal. Jaguars Texans, another division game coming down to the wire. I mean, from a fantasy perspective, Lions Seahawks because it just was so many points. And I mean, Washington and the Cardinals should have been a good one as well. I mean, it was great for Washington. I mean, you wanted a little more out of the Cardinals, but that was another good one too. I mean, for me, I love high-scoring games. I'm a degenerate. I'm a fantasy player. So anytime you can get 50, 60 points, it is awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to go Commanders, Arizona. I'm going to go Houston, Indianapolis. And I'm going to go Cincinnati, Carolina because of Cash Big Dogs parlay.
Woof woof.
All right, next up, we have a fantasy question. Is Tyreek Hill going to be the biggest bust in this year's fantasy season? And if so, where does he fall in next year's draft?
So a couple guys come to mind for me. Christian McCaffrey going number 1 based off where you took him with the Achilles and kind of how that was not known about before the season. And then all of a sudden it becomes he's out for months. So you could argue McCaffrey just based off going number 1, but also Tyreek Hill was picked top 5. At least he's healthy and you're hoping to his back mid-season. So if you could stay afloat around 500 as a fantasy team.
I also feel like a bust to me, injury you have to take out because I wouldn't consider that a bust. They're not busting; they're just injured. So I don't know if I consider McCaffrey a bust because he's just injured. He's not his performance. So I would say if you're going off of performance, because I think, like, yeah, out of the first round guys, like, he's the biggest bust. But then again, if Tua comes back in week 8, does it really matter that 6-game stretch that he killed you for? If he lights the world on fire and is putting up like 20 points a game with Tua?
Yeah, and you're
You
fine.
know what I
And
mean?
then it goes to Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts for me.
I was gonna say Mark Andrews because I have him in 2 of my leagues and doesn't even have a fucking point the last 2 weeks, dude. That guy, fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's 2 targets, 1 per game.
Yeah,
Great production from your 4th, 5th round pick right there.
All right, over to Ryan Lewison. At what
Rylou.
point do y'all feel like Sam Darnold's run ends?
This week, Rye. As a fellow Jet fan, which I only recently found out when I saw his Instagram story. I had no idea. But yeah, I would say this week in London, man. I feel like we're gonna get it done. I don't know though, because it's weird. I forgot to talk, or I'll talk about it a little more tomorrow. But you know how like DraftKings and all those books puts out the lines beforehand. The Jets were like, you could have gotten them at 4-point favorites if you bet it before the season started. They are now 3-point underdogs.
Wow.
So if you were one of those Minnesota fans who were like very confident in it, you could honestly hedge it out and guarantee a profit already if you threw a couple bands on that.
That's crazy. I think Darnold right now is on a Geno Smith trajectory where, yeah, he's not going to be top 5 MVP for the entire season. I don't know when it exactly ends, but he's going to be a good quarterback for this season and potentially next year for someone else. But him and Kevin O'Connell really seem to have found something. So I think we're going to see a Geno Smith type resurgence in season from Sam Darnold for the rest of the year.
I think Kevin O'Connell deserves some more credit too. Like,
oh, absolutely,
what he's been able to do. I mean, like Nick Mullins looked good in that offense last year. I mean, it seems like whoever kind of steps in outside of Jaron Hall last year, like, has been very successful under him. So I mean, he is a great offensive mind, and like he's a name that like needs more respect.
All right, last person over to Meatball.
Oh, this is the burner. This is Luke's burner.
Funny guy.
General question for the Around the Felt crew: can Reagan put a girl on?
If most people won't know the background,
you got a sister, bro, you got a cousin.
Most people won't know the background on this, but someone on Twitter, very similar to how I got kind of chewed out by, what was his name? I forget him now because he's so quiet these days.
Hugh Chavez. Yeah, where is
Hugh
he?
Chavez. Hugh Chavez.
He only comes when Daniel Jones like looks like the worst quarterback in the league.
Yes, but there's this Meatball Twitter account. The name is Meatball. It's over 1,000. It's a burner. Over 1,000 followers. At ColinSong32. This was Saturday night. Love the podcast. Just one question. Does Reagan get bitches? I was fucking dying laughing.
I was dying too because I was hoping it was a random, and I'm so upset it's not.
Then another one, another tweet 3 hours later. Best part of at Around the Felt is at ColinSong32 fucks, and Reagan wishes he had the same smash power. Though the sports talk is awesome from both parties.
Yeah, at least he gave me, that was like a backhanded compliment. He's like, all right, I'm gonna fucking roast you, but at least I'll give you at least I'll say I like the sports talk from both of you. And then do you have the last one or no?
There was a third.
Yeah, I forget exactly what he said, but he was like,
those were the two.
Oh
no.
Said,
here it is. Yep. Yeah. Here it is. An OnlyFans chick that Reagan unsubscribed because I was like, who is this? LMAO. From the Around the Felt account. An OnlyFans chick that Reagan unsubscribed from. We were supposed to go see Talk 2 live together. Looking forward to the week 4 recap.
And then he deleted them. He was following both of us. And I kind of had a feeling it was him because I was like, all right, in the bio, it's Giants, Yankees, and Devils fan. And I was doing some detective work. But Luke's not following the Devils on Instagram. So I'm like, all right, maybe it's not him.
No, Luke's not. I've never heard Luke talk about hockey once.
Well, it's in his bio, so unless that's his way of like kind of getting people off the scent. But then I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, you know what? This guy messes with me all the time. Who glazes Colin more than Luke Young? So I'm like, it's gotta be him. It's gotta be him.
I don't know. The Meatball name is really something, huh? That really kind of connects the dots.
That's crazy, bro. That he leaked his own burner, bro. I wouldn't say that. Now everyone's gonna be looking it up.
Yeah,
he had a good thing going, but he did unfollow us because he's probably like, I don't want people knowing it's me. But
we know. I think that's a good spot to end it, Reagan, is you getting absolutely shit on. It's been an hour and 45-minute pod, dude. It's been a long one, but
there's one more question.
I will.
One more question.
Wait, there's
And
one
it's
more?
a and it's a punishment idea from Meatball. And it is Reagan asks a girl out until one of them says yes challenge. Impossible.
I will say, if you let me, please, as long as he lets me borrow his Boy Scout outfit from the punishment, I think I'll have a chance. But let me borrow your outfit, Meatball. Give me a chance. Give me a chance.
Oh, my stomach hurts, dude. I'm
No,
cramping.
he's lucky. He's lucky. The Octagon needs a question segment so I can make a burner to fuck with him. You guys
God.
you guys should do questions on the Octagon pod. I feel like people will have like questions.
Yeah,
And
we
also would
should.
give me a chance to
Yeah,
fuck
we
with him.
will. We will.
Oh,
We
my
will.
goodness. All right, guys. I think that's a good spot to end. It's been a long one. Great talking about week 4. We'll be back tomorrow. We're talking about week 5 predictions. Ready to roll.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Peace out.
Wow. All right. See you, dude.